Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Fem Naruto Banished parents return. Part 2. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. Did you hear? Ino asked Sakura in a low voice. No, what? The pinkette asked. Naruto's back. Sakura tensed. What? Yeah, no sight of Shikamaru, Kiba, or that other Hyuga. Ino shrugged, as if unconcerned. And that's when they caught sight of the redhead with whisker marks, grinning in that stupid way that Sakura knew was instinctively Naruto. She stood next to Tsunade, chatting with her as they walked through the market. To Ichiraku's, Sakura ran to get in front of them, rage in her. She noticed Sume-san of the Inuzuka clan glaring at Naruto. Why did you break your promise? Naruto stopped, her aquamarine eyes glaring at her. I was banished, Haruno-san. Sakura felt rage. Where's my son? Sume-san's presence made Sakura shrink out of the way. With Neji and Shikamaru, Naruto replied, smiling at Sume-san, but it was more of a polite smile. No offense, Inuzuka-sama, but there is very little that Neji cannot handle in way of bandits. I'm positive that very little ninja would want anything to do with a sealed Hyuga, seeing as they are sealed Hyuga, and therefore pretty much useless in the eyes of the other nations. The Inuzuka clan's style of fighting is beyond Kiba now, thanks to your refusal to give him another ninkin, and Shikamaru's style calls for a perpetual lazy ass with perfect chakra control. Out of all of these, only Shikamaru's would be feasible, but he's usually such a lazy ass he lets us deal with the bandits and stuff. Naruto gave them another polite smile, then turned to Sakura. Haruno-san, I was unable to complete my task because Sasuke is a spoiled ass who thinks he needs to kill his brother. Do you really want to live in a clan filled with fratricidal people? Sakura slapped her. Naruto took it. You've no right to talk, trash, Sakura hissed. Naruto smiled at her chillingly. You know, if I wanted to, I could kill you for that insult. Tsunade smirked at Sakura's sudden paleness. But I won't. After all, I have a reputation to maintain. Tsunade opened a bingo book. Oi, Gaki. Look. Naruto blinked at the entry. Why am I on there? You attacked the Raikage, dumbass. Of course he's going to go after you. Tsunade noticed everyone staring at them. We should send a falcon to your companions. Naruto nodded. Alright. She removed her eyes from her bingo book entry. Is Sake around? Of course. Neji, Shikamaru, and Kiba were getting ready for another long night when a falcon's cry pierced the air. The falcon circled to them and landed, showing that it was from Konoha. Shikamaru opened it cautiously, possibly expecting some sort of trap. Instead, his eyes widened and he got up. Naruto is in Konoha, which is only about a day away from here. We should head out early tomorrow, he said to the other two. Indeed, Neji said, throwing another stick into the flames. I would like to see my family again. And mine, though I hope my mom won't be too angry that I left, Kiba shuddered. I mean, I'm sure she knew I was leaving. My parents packed for me, Shikamaru shrugged. I knew I'd be back. I rather like this, though. Learning on the road suits me. Neji was quiet. It shall be interesting indeed to see my father and how he interacts with the rest of my clan, Neji admitted after a minute. Each of them were silent as they each contemplated how they were going to talk to their families after such a long absence away. Naruto. Naruto paused in the market as one of her best friends in the whole world appeared, her hair in a messy bun and her coal-black eyes making Naruto's heart ache as she thought of Sasuke. Sake, how are you? The only Uchiha loyal to Konoha blinked owlishly at her from behind her glasses. Better, now that you're back. Sake frowned at her. You suck, you know that? You don't even tell me you're leaving. I had to find out from the Hokage that you were banished. I had to leave my department. Naruto's sweat dropped. All of the nerd squad, as Sake called her department, were a bunch of overworked intel guys. Of course, they had Kage Bunshin training. As severely understaffed as they were, they couldn't afford not to have Kage Bunshins running both in their department and outside the premises of said department. That being said, the nerd squad were usually identified by their pale skin, glasses, lab coats, and, according to my research, statements. Sake, however. Sake managed to live through the Uchiha massacre. How? Naruto had had her over in secret. Sake was an orphan who'd pretty much been tossed out of the Uchiha anyway, and the only reason she wore the Uchiwa fan on her back was because she had the Sharingan and she could do the basic Kaden jutsu. Awesome, right? Not for Sake. Upon hearing of Itachi being the one who massacred them, her eyes had changed into something called the Mangekyu. Not that Naruto wanted to learn much more about the Mangekyu eyes. Sake had no immediate relatives, and the fact was the Sandame had never mentioned on if there were any spare Uchiha Sharingan around to save Sake's eyesight. Sake had retreated into the intel department, and Naruto rarely saw her. Mentioning Sake in passing to Sasuke had pissed Sasuke off, too. Naruto smiled at her. I'm sorry, Sake-chan. Sake sighed. I guess I can't blame you. She fixed her shades. I'd want to leave without saying anything, I wouldn't want to hurt my friends anymore. Naruto sighed and looked down. Sake, you know I tried, right? To bring him back? Sake nodded. You never give up, right? Naruto tilted her head. I guess boss can deal without me for a few weeks. You, me, and your pals on the Sasuke retrieval squad will go to Otogakure. We'll kick Sasuke's ass. Then we'll drag it back here, in good condition or not. We'd need an army, Naruto said, the beginnings of an idea appearing in her head. Sake, I love you, she burst out. Sake smiled, threw her arms around Naruto, and in a display of Sake's biuality, Sake kissed her. Full on the lips, in front of everyone. Naruto's arms flailed a little bit, but she settled down as Sake kissed her more deeply. Though Sake did remove herself before tongue was involved. Naruto, I love you, too. Does this mean you'll marry me, and our eternal love would continue? Naruto face-faulted. Naruto. Not long after Sake's kiss, and Naruto's flat no to Sake's question of spending their life together and having their eternal love exist, Choji puffed up to her. Instead of greeting him normally, Naruto pulled Choji in a hug. I'm sorry for putting you in the hospital. She told him. I didn't mean to. Choji patted her back awkwardly. Not your fault. But I have news. Shikamaru, Neji, and Kiba are here. Naruto let him go and grinned at him. Thank you. She rushed off, Sake huffing and puffing behind her. They stood there, arguing with Katetsu and Izumo. I'm telling you, just let us in without signing. Yo, Izumo. Katetsu. Izumo and Katetsu turned. Can you please let them in? She asked, using her puppy eyes. I mean, they aren't Konoha shinobi, so please? Both melted almost immediately. She grabbed Neji's hand almost unintentionally and tugged him in. Come on, guys. Let's go see Tsunade Ba-chan. That's a good idea, Neji replied quietly. How did you? Kiba shoved through them and tugged Naruto into a hug. Naruto gasped as she was squeezed. How did you escape? Who were you taken by? Can't breathe. Oh, sorry, Kiba said, dropping her. Just, tell us, please. Naruto sucked in lungfuls of air. Kiba, Shika, Neji, meet my best friend, Sake. Sake waved, then turned her attention back to Naruto. As for what happened, I was kidnapped by Bakuhatsu no Deidara, she admitted. And I jumped off of his flying exploding bird and landed in the Junin lounge. Ouch, came the simultaneous voices of her friends. I know, Naruto flashed them a smile. And I know I said I didn't want to, but I think I know how to get Sasuke back. She waited for the inevitable explosion, but it never came. Okay, how? Shikamaru asked. It's not like we have another Sharingan user. Actually, Sake said, closing her eyes and then opening them, making them stare, I do, bitches. Uchiha fucking Sake at your service. This plan needs an army, Naruto divulged. Which means I need to get to Uzushio, then I need to get to Suna. Garrett told me how the case cage survived, and we need information on how to use that jutsu, though it might only be doable for Uzumaki's, it would still be necessary. Naruto took a deep breath and explained her thoughts. Using an army of Uzumaki's was pretty damn impossible. But an army of Hengid Naruto's? Well, maybe it wasn't quite practical, but hey, to get Sasuke back, Naruto had to try everything. It has its merits, Shikamaru nodded. But why do you need to go to Uzushio? Naruto paused. It's a feeling I have, she said, her eyes turning in the direction of her mother's home. I have to go. It's little and incessant fire ant biting me over and over and over again. She clenched her jaw. And I'd like to take Sake to see it. She expressed an interest in it, anyway. Sake beamed. I would love to see it. Brilliant architecture, most of which is crumbled stone. Seals that change the DNA of the people. Only for me, because I did something very dumb that could have killed me and the Kyuubi. And, of course, the The Kyuubi? Holy shit, you could have killed the Kyuubi? Saki's eyes were wide and had gone onyx. Well, Sake-chan, I would have died too. Naruto said with a false cheer. Besides, I really need to go Uzushio anyway, to see if they have anything regarding the changes I went through. She paused. And maybe we can slip to wave real quick, to check up on Zabuza and Haku? Mendoku's, Shikamaru sighed. You don't have to come, Naruto smiled. No, I think it would be better if we did, he said. I don't really mind. I think we should rest up for a few more days. Naruto smiled. Alright, I have to finish food shopping for the next couple of days, so I'll see you. She trailed off. A week, Shikamaru sighed. A week from today and we meet at the gate. Neji nodded. I shall see you all later. I must go see my family. Naruto nodded and shoved him away. Go, then. The other three dispersed, and Sake glanced at Naruto. You're a freaking moron, Naruto. Naruto frowned. Huh? I don't know what you mean. Sake rolled her eyes. Come on, let's go work at my place. Sake-chan, I'm not allowed in the intel department. Oh, fuck that. It's more of a, you're not technically allowed, type of thing. Everyone knows Tsunade's your grandma and Jiraiya's your grandpa and that they'll kill you themselves if you give out secret information. They're my what? Like I said, Naruto, you're a freaking moron. Shikamaru opened the gate to his clan. He walked up to his house, then walked in after pausing for a moment. Tadaima, he called. Okari, his mother called back. How are you, Shikamaru? Tired, Shikamaru answered truthfully. I'm heading to bed for a while. I bet Kiba and Neji are doing the same. He slipped off to his room and collapsed there. Ah, a proper bed. Kiba stepped into the clan compound, in full view of his mom. And, well, everyone in his family. Hi. He offered that one word up. His mom looked highly displeased. And why did you leave without talking to me first? Because I thought you'd stop me, Kiba answered steadily. Naruto isn't a monster, Ka-san. She's a girl who has all of the shitty luck in the world to be born on that night. Sume rolled her eyes. Yep, I got that much, kid. Thanks for making us think differently. You're grounded, though. Kiba grinned at her. I'm leaving again in a week. Sume huffed. Whatever. Kiba walked past her to his bedroom, intending to get a good night's sleep. His mother hadn't even commented on his swords. Ah, well. Neji entered the clan compound quietly, ignoring the looks and glares. He knocked on the door to his uncle's home and announced his presence. Uncle, I have returned home. Enter, the cool voice of his uncle said. Neji entered, and he saw his father sitting there, cursed seal out in the open. Father. Neji was glad his father had made it here. I am glad to see you within clan walls again. His father smiled at him. How much progress have you made on wooing Naruto? Neji facepalmed. Father, she is only 13 years old. 14, Hiashi interjected. Her birthday passed. Neji frowned. When was it? What day is it? A month ago, Hiashi replied. October 10th. Neji quickly thought. I think we were in Tetsu no Kuni. He frowned. You're probably exhausted, Hisashi said. Go rest, my son. I shall talk to you later. Neji nodded, heading to his room in the home. He sprawled in his bed, feeling as though the bed was too comfortable. Naruto, in this time, was finishing her shopping, and headed back to her silent home, when she stopped at her door, tensing. I can feel your chakra, she said out loud. Super beast art. Snake ropes. Naruto dropped her groceries. Ninjutsu. Chakra gag. As she opened her mouth to yell, she was silenced by something that was choking her. Something pricked her arm, and the snakes burst into ink, spattering her clothes and her body. He won't be pleased that she got damaged. Chakra gags are okay, he said. It's kind of sad she got knocked out in her own village. Naruto gritted her teeth and moved. In a single burst of energy, she flipped backwards and jammed her foot into someone's neck. A gasp, and she was spinning, again on her hands, and lashing out again with her foot. Impressive. She landed on her feet and swayed. What? She recalled the prick in her arm and gritted her teeth. Just a moment. Ninjutsu. Chakra block. Something slammed into her back, making her tumble off the walkway, over the railing, and she couldn't use her chakra. Blood flew from her mouth, and the ground rushed up to greet her. Intense pain seemed to render the chakra gag useless, because Naruto could have sworn she heard a shout. But then she was out, more blood flowing from her head and onto the street. Tsunade was suddenly distracted from her speech to some of her anbu about the impracticality of food pills substituting regular food on mission. A bad feeling chilling her spine and making her stand up and look out the window in the direction of her grandchild's home. Tsunade, I bet she's alright, Jiraiya said, laying a hand on her shoulder. Tsunade shook her head. The odds of me winning that bet are 0-0, but I'll take it. She hoped that she was alright. She turned to her anbu. Look, I know I was lecturing you, and I'll finish my argument later, but I need you all to go make sure Uzumaki Naruto is alright. The shinobi did not ask for any details, rather, they immediately left the room. Naruto woke with a splitting headache, a light in her eyes, and the ugliest face she'd ever seen. Bandages went down half his face, and one dark eye shone out with displeasure. Oh, fantastic, her Biju chirped, the power-hungry warhawk. Mito never trusted him, and your mom never really interacted with him. He'd retired by the time the Yondaime came into office. Probaby only going into office again because the Sandame blackmailed him. Are you Uzumaki Naruto? The chicken clucks on a Sunday night, Naruto replied, then frowned at herself. The flower petals rhymed yes. Falling sakuras are mediated by bloody wolves. Naruto growled to herself and shut her eyes. Any reason why I'm saying nonsensical things? Ah, sorry about that. Kurama's chakra pooled in her throat. There, all good. Sorry about that, Danzo-sama. Yes, I am Uzumaki Naruto. She swallowed. Why am I here? More importantly, Naruto was no longer associated with Konoha in a shinobi way. Why would he want her? For anything? In time, I shall answer. He seemed satisfied, and the annoying light plunged into non-existence. Danzo walked away. Naruto's silent and more than simply confused. Just give me a minute. I think I can undo this chakra block, but it will take a little time. Take all the time you need. I have to think on what the seal did to me. She could recall a physical burning sensation in her body. Just tell me when you're done. No problem with that. Nothing, Hokage-sama. Her companions are asleep. A knock on the door brought Tsunade's attention. The anbu melted into non-existence, and Tsunade opened the door to see Sake, the Uchiha that was technically not an Uchiha in name only. Sake looked unusually grave. I think Naruto's in trouble, because she dropped her groceries outside her door, and there's a chakra trail. Hers and nobody's in the village. Leading away from the village to the north. Sake looked pale. I can track it, but I really need help. I don't have the stamina, even if I were to run. Tori, Oni, Gamma. Take Sake and follow her direction. Sake leapt onto the shoulder of Gamma, and with barely a whisper, they were gone. Naruto panted with the effort of keeping Kurama contained. Fuck, he has a Sharingan. Naruto. That is the only way to circumvent the seal. On the plus side, he's dead. As in, really dead. You will have to use your chains. That is one of the things the seal granted you. Kurama's essence was leaving her. Him releasing me will make the Shinigami appear, and his life is forfeit. Such is the reason your idiot father used the Shikifujin. Since this old dude has more chakra than your father. Kurama's explanation was cut off as he left her body. Shit, Naruto swore as Kurama made the building explode. If he gets to Konoha. The chains. Well, there was one thing she could do. Ka-san. Inside her, her mother's chakra existed. Not in great quantity, as her mother had told her a story before. The story of her life. Hers and her father's, though she hadn't realized Minato was her dad, then, as she never really mentioned that he'd become the Yondaime Hokage, and occasionally helped her with staying strong. Her fight with Sasuke. I have the chains. Do you know how I can activate them? Yes. You have to be stronger than you've ever been. And release your chakra, visualizing the chains you want. Her mother retreated, and Naruto closed her eyes and felt for her strength. Her ties with the rest of her friends, Choji, Shika, Neji, Lee, Kiba, Sake, Kurama, Koyuki, Iruka-sensei, Kaka-sensei, and the Ichirakus, and the camaraderie she'd once had with Sasuke before his defection, and building up her chakra at the relationship she was beginning to have with Tsunade Ba-san, and Ero Sennin. Orange, typical of her, she did like her orange, chains began to appear as she visualized the desired chains. And then Naruto released the chakra. Chains exploded from her back, wrapping up Kurama and shoving him to the ground. His new-formed Bijudama cracked and fell apart. Naruto could hear an eerie silence, and she also heard footsteps. Coldness began to steal up her limbs. A dirty foot kicked her and yanked Kurama. "Sorry," she yelled to her friend. "It kinda has to be this way, TT Ibeo." Danzo kicked her again. Kurama roared as Naruto's chains dragged him a little bit again. She allowed them to extend, but only enough so that he wouldn't move when she was inevitably kicked again, and this time it was a chakra-enhanced kick. She fell onto her back, chains digging into her back uncomfortably. And then she looked up to sneer at him, and promptly lost what remaining blood she had in her face. "Do you think you were this scared when you saw the Shinigami?" She wondered to her mother, who never responded. The Shinigami silently unsheathed his knife, and licked it. Danzo growled at her. "You release the Biju, girl. You're dead," she said. "Why should I give care to a dead man?" Danzo frowned. "Behind you, moron," she taunted. He whipped around, eyes wide, just as the Shinigami sliced down, cleaving the man in half. His chakra remained, in a distinctly human shape, so human she could make out his hair on his head, and Naruto watched with wide, frightened eyes as the Shinigami sucked the soul down. The Shinigami's eyes turned to her, and she saw him bringing the knife up and she recoiled, closing her eyes and praying she didn't wake up in the afterlife. Instead, she felt a coldness to her seal. Nothing seemed to happen, so she peeked out one of her eyes and the Shinigami was right in her face. Naruto screamed in fear and shoved herself backwards a bit, heart racing. The Shinigami smirked. Naruto's heart raced faster. He was gone in the next second, and Naruto felt the chains retracting, Kurama returning to a chakra-like substance before returning to her body. Naruto sagged. Deciding she had had it for the day, she passed out. 5 minutes before Naruto passed out, Sake was pointing out the chakra residue when it abruptly started shooting towards something. Sake frowned, her Sharingan following it. "It's collecting in front of us, a big round. Hey, what are you doing?" The Anbu Gamma had stopped and started jumping backwards. "You idiot, Tsunade-sama." The big black ball, apparently visible to anyone, suddenly cracked and suddenly Sake felt it, the bloodthirsty hatred and anger. She screamed, slamming her eyes shut. Some part of her wanted to curl into a ball, or better yet, kill herself. She opened her eyes again, determined not to let it get to her. She reminded herself of Naruto, and her mom, her loving mother who Sake was kicked out for hurting, Kami's. Sake was a terrible daughter. Her awakening of her Sharingan had hurt her Kasan. And how both of them, even if one was in the afterlife already, would shout at her for killing herself without putting up a fight. Sake took a deep breath and got off of Gamma, intentionally going towards the hate. Maybe it was the fact that Naruto was hurting that had shielded her at first, or maybe because she was an Uchiha. But either way, Sake kept going, leaping from tree to tree. She made it there, the remains of an underground base showing. Sake peeked into the crater. There, one ugly-ass spiritual being was leaning over Naruto, and Naruto looked terrified. Sake didn't blame her. Sake was also afraid of ghosts. The being vanished, and a blast of air rushed upward. Naruto was mere feet away from the separated body of an ugly old person, and the orange chains extending from her back retracted. Orange and what was presumably the Kyuubi's chakra going back into Naruto's body. Naruto, who promptly fainted once it was in there. Naruto slowly woke up. There was this ugly old dude cut into 2 halves, there was a ghost, and I'm not quite sure how Naruto managed that, Saki's voice was saying. "Wasn't me," Naruto hoarsely said, opening her eyes fully. "Naruto, you seem to manage to scare the crap out of everyone on a daily basis," Kakashi said, reading his porn. Iruka's sensei was by her bedside, looking all the world like a worried mama bird. "Ignore Kakashi, he's just horny. What's wrong? Are you hurt in any way? Need anything? Water." Iruka, for a moment, looked flummoxed. "I need water." "Oh, right." He handed her water. She drank it like she'd been dehydrated. She coughed after, expelling some of it back. She dropped the glass, and tried to catch it but fumbled. Sake caught it. "Your motor functions will suck for a few more days," Sake told her flatly. "You hit your head nastily, your chakra was blocked, and your Biju was extracted. I don't even know how you're still alive, much less coherent right now." It hurt. Naruto glanced at Sake. And even though it hurt, not all of the Kyuubi could be extracted. "Why not?" Sake asked, looking puzzled. Naruto looked at her, solemn, well aware of the ears in the room. You want to know how Danzo got halved? Sake grimaced, but nodded. The ghost wasn't a ghost, Sake. Naruto steeled herself. You saw a faraway version of what I saw up close. Sake frowned. Naruto, what did you see? Naruto clutched her bedspread. The Shinigami. We know you danced with death. Naruto, what did you? I saw the actual Shinigami. Naruto screamed. And so did you. Sake gazed at her. Naruto shivered unintentionally. I saw the Shinigami. I was so scared. Kyuubi told me that, since he took the demon out of my seal, that Danzo's life was forfeit. The Shinigami did something with my seal, and I was so damn scared, I thought the Shinigami was after me. Naruto couldn't help the moisture coming to her eyes. He smirked, and he came right up to me, and I thought he was going to slice me in half the way he did to Danzo. Naruto closed her eyes and started to sob. Sake sniffled. Why didn't he kill you? Neji's question made Naruto shrug. I don't know, the girl hiccuped. But I know what I saw. It couldn't have been anything but the Shinigami. She stopped sobbing, simply letting out some of her tears, covering her mouth. Her mother and father must have been terrified, but they got over the terror because they were dead. Or they never looked at it. Still, Naruto choked a little bit as the door opened to admit Shikamaru, Choji, and Kiba. Speaking of which, why was Neji earlier than them? Sorry, Shikamaru apologized breathlessly. Our parents wouldn't let us check up on you until an Anbu said you were awake. My father said it would be mildly creepy to walk in your door while you were sleeping. Neji offered as Naruto turned her watery eyes to him. But I came in through the window. Everyone in the room's sweat dropped. Sake told me what you saw. Naruto stood before the Hokage on crutches. Yep, gonna call me crazy like Sake did? From what I heard, she was simply under the impression it was a ghost. And no, I have heard plenty of stories of the Shinigami. Did he do anything to you? Tsunade looked uncertain. No, Naruto said, shaking her head. I thought I was going to die. Naruto closed her eyes. And he kind of freaked me out. He just used his freaking knife to slice someone in half. Naruto sighed. Guess Danzo was half the man we all thought him to be. Okay, morbid, but... Tsunade burst into laughter. Girl, that was terrible. Naruto smiled. That was half the joke I meant it to be. The Anbu in the far right corner was fighting back his laughter. Naruto sighed. Ba-san, why didn't you ever tell me we were related? Tsunade stopped laughing, as did the Anbu guy in the corner. She sighed. I didn't think it would matter, to be honest. Naruto flinched. Ba-san, I can't come back to this village as a shinobi. I can visit, but I don't think I can stay. It's not you, or Ero Sennin, it's just. She threw her hands and waved them a little, trying to explain via jazz hands instead of being able to say it. You know, right? Surprisingly, Tsunade nodded. I get it, Naruto. You can't stay here because it's difficult for you. I understand. I'm not asking you to stay. In fact, I want you to live your life. This village has done you enough harm. Just visit when you're on your way to Uzushio. Twice a year at least, okay? Naruto frowned. How did you? Oh, right. You're Mito's granddaughter. Of course you'd know. She offered her grandmother a smile. Hey, Jiraiya appeared out of the shadows. You probably won't see me on the visits, but we'll run into each other. Definitely. He grinned at her, and Naruto smiled back. You guys are awesome, Naruto said after a moment. Tsunade snorted. We better be. My father wants you to come to dinner with Hinata, Hanabi, and my uncle, Neji said to her 2 nights before they planned to leave. When? Naruto asked, calmly. Tonight, Neji replied. Let me get changed, she told him. And then I'll be there. She changed into the clothes Haku had given her, now repaired. She was grateful to Haku. They were loose, flowing, and they looked just like what Haku wore. Naruto looked up to Haku. Both of their clans were pretty much gone, or scattered, at least. Sake was another matter, as she had been Naruto's friend since. Well, forever, really. Naruto was ready within minutes, and she followed Neji to the Hyuga compound. Of course, they had to pick some cinnamon buns up for Hinata, so they caught a lot of eyes. Naruto had pretty much avoided the market after Danzo had her taken, so when she was shown in the public eye she heard whispers. I thought she was dead. I never thought I'd see the day a Hyuga willingly walked with that demon. Naruto heard on Kurama's behalf, it wasn't his fault. And nor was it Naruto's. Both Naruto and Kurama were victims of circumstance. Are you alright? Neji's voice was soft. Naruto turned to him and gave him a small smile. Yeah, I think so. The words of the village she alternately loved and hated hurt, true. But to be honest, the only opinions she was beginning to care about was her group's opinions and her friends. On our last day we're invited over to the barbecue place with the other rookies, Naruto informed Neji, reminded of her invitation given to her by Iruka. All of us. I think I'm going to try explaining Sasuke to Sakura then. Neji nodded. That fits into plans well, father said he. Shikaku-sama and Sume-sama of the clans are getting together tomorrow. And they want us in the group to be there to make sure we fit together. Naruto beamed. Then let's hurry. Together, the two raced to the Hyuga compound, Naruto grinning so hard her face hurt. She was beyond excited for what the night would bring. Then Naruto said that she couldn't read, and everyone stared at her like she was an alien. Neji wrapped up. Naruto's face was completely red. It's not my fault, she pouted. No, but I didn't tell them about your mistakes with Basic Academy Catus, Neji replied with a smirk. Naruto flushed brighter red. I wish I could kick Mizuki Tomi's ass, Naruto grumbled, shoving food in her mouth. Language, Hinata hissed, shooting a glance at Hanabi. You say worse things, Hanabi said blandly. Hinata pinked and ducked her head. Naruto paused, swallowing. Hiyashi-sama, I really do wonder something, and can you not be offended? She asked him, pinking a little bit. Hiyashi inclined his head. What is it? Well, how has your clan retained the stick up its ass when you kind of have to be massive perverts to use the Byakugan? Hizashi burst into loud laughter at Hiyashi choking. I don't think anyone's put it quite like that before, he chuckled, hitting Hiyashi on the back. Neji's face was bright red. Well, I mean, it wouldn't matter to me all that much, Naruto admitted. If it makes them more comfortable I can change into a guy. Everyone looked at her, including Hizashi and Neji. I thought you simply changed your physical appearance, Neji said, puzzled. Naruto rolled her eyes and performed her henge. Without a second to waste, the entire household activated their Byakugan. I'm essentially a guy, guys, Naruto said in his rough voice, which really wasn't much different from her normal voice. Geez, I have fully operative sets of reproductive organs. He looked at his hair, which had also turned red. Though I forgot I had red hair. I like this look, flat, semi-spiky, kinda like Kasan's. Even though my original form actually has mom's hair, Naruto mused to himself before shrugging. He's right, Hizashi said. Won't you have fun, Neji? Neji deactivated his Byakugan, going crimson. Naruto frowned. What does he mean? All at once, the rest of the family looked at him like he was a clueless moron. Which he was. In both forms. Nothing, Neji replied after a moment. Adult stuff. Hizashi and Hinata looked to Neji like, he's not going to buy that. Oh, okay, Naruto nodded, going back to his food. Everyone aside from Neji and Naruto faceplanted. The next night, the four families converged, watching the interaction of the group of four. Oi, I've been practicing. Kiba scowled at Neji, who wore a superior smirk. Nimue was a kind person. I highly doubt you learned anything from her, Neji said. Kiba's gaze became murderous, and he brought out his sword. Show me yours. Neji stood and settled into his Juken stance. I don't need a sword to kick your ass. Naruto was there, smiling at them and unknowingly interrupting the fight. Hey, Kiba, want to cross blades with me? She asked hopefully, bringing out her blood-red sword. Kiba grinned. Yeah, both settled into stances. They started the fight, both drawing lots of blood, but still going until Kiba collapsed, Naruto breathing hard and collapsing next to him. Both broke into a laugh. It's hard to believe I thought her a demon, Sume finally admitted to Hizashi, who looked mildly disapproving. That's idiotic, Shikaku murmured. Yoshino sighed. Oh, Shikaku, don't be stupid. Most of the villagers have the same mindset, after all. True, conceded Hizashi. But there is something about her that is different than any of the Jinchuriki we have heard about or met. Mito-sama had been spoken of as cool, polite, and unapproachable, with an underlying hatred deep inside. Kushina had been loud, brash, and dying to prove herself, with a deep anger inside her that wasn't quite hatred, but Naruto. Naruto was polite, loud, brash, approachable, and filled to the brim of love. There wasn't a genuinely mean bone in her body. Well, there could be, but they had yet to see it, really. Kushina had all the extremely dangerous tasks, so I never really knew her like that Uchiha girl did, Sume waved. I meant that she's, I don't know, human, and I can actually see that now. Sume watched the girl mess around with her pup. Wow, Sume, you can be deep. Yoshino said, eyes wide open, completely faking surprise. Ah, screw you, the matriarch scowled. Yoshino laughed, Shikaku lazing around. Together, the adults watched the four ninja mess around with each other, watching Naruto turn into a teenage boy, only for Kiba to say something that made the girl turn back into herself and yell at him heatedly. Yeah, Naruto was okay. Naruto waved goodbye to everyone and they started to leave. That was fun, Kiba said, grinning. Naruto beamed. Yeah, it was. They were full of good food, and more than that, they were happy leaving. They didn't need to sneak out like criminals, and it was just the four of them, off on the road ag. Wait, you morons. Saki's voice floated over to them. Her Konoha Hite 8 flashed in the night. Tsunade-sama asked me to join you, approving me to go with you to get Sasuke, she announced. Whenever that is. Also, she asks if you'd be willing to do a few missions that she could only trust you guys with. Sake pushed her glasses up. Fine by me, Naruto shrugged. And me, Kiba answered. I want to test out my sword skills. Sake smiled. I'd really like to test the strength of the Sharingan on the Byakugan. Settling clan feuds is a new start to the Uchiha clan. You're not the one going to be reviving your clan, Neji deadpanned. Naruto scowled and muttered to herself. Naruto could do it for me. Right, Sugarlips? Naruto facepalmed. We're not dating, Sake. Not yet, Sake said with a crazed grin. Shikamaru only sweat dropped. They decided against seeing Haku and Zabuza again, this time running on the water on their own and getting to the island slower than Haku did. But if they'd gone to Haku and Zabuza, they probably would have had to explain a lot. Wow, Sake said, staring at the ruins. Mind if I take a few pictures? Naruto shrugged. I don't think you can go past a certain point. To prove it, she dragged Sake forward to about the point where Neji had been blocked off. True to her thoughts, Sake slammed into the barrier, which actually glowed for a brief moment. Naruto frowned. Did you guys just see that? There was silence, and Naruto was met with 4 blank gazes. I have no idea what you're talking about, Neji said with a sigh, leaning forward to lean against the barrier, only to end up sprawled on the ground, his eyes wide. Naruto beamed. You're allowed to see it. Sweet. Sake pouted. Naruto eagerly walked through the ruins, Neji gazing around in wonderment. I didn't see any of this when I followed you with my Byakugan before, Neji remarked. I think some of these ruins have only appeared again because I'm here, Naruto replied honestly. A queen hasn't sat in the throne since before the height of the Uzumaki. Ka-san's line was the queen's line, most likely. Mito could have been born into the royal line, but I don't think the throne would have allowed me to sit in it if I wasn't pure royalty. I did notice that the Uzumakis I have seen photos of have lighter hair than yours, Neji commented. Naruto frowned. I wonder why. She stopped, seeing one of the only nearly intact buildings, a shrine-like building. Noises came from within, and both tensed, ready for a fight. 2 slightly familiar people appeared, looking surprised to see Naruto. Not too surprised, though, considering Naruto was an Uzumaki. Hattori? Neo? Nia said in a flat voice. I am Uzumaki Nia, at your service. Yep, we're here, Hattori said, far more at ease with Naruto. Possibly because she had helped them into Kumo. Was your mission successful, then? Yep, Naruto said with a grin. What are you doing here? Hattori turned to Nia, who bowed her head and spoke. I ran into Hattori when leaving Kumo. Fortunately, she was willing to come along with me, to help with the rebuilding of Uzu. Nia stared at Naruto for a moment. You are the newest queen. Naruto raised her hands. I don't plan on ruling for a while. Nia smiled. Wanderlust is common in those of us who live for almost eternity. Naruto looked at her. What do you mean? Neji stepped forward, stopping Nia from answering. Uzumaki-san, Kaminari-san. I apologize for the interruption, but there is a barrier out there keeping our companions out. Naruto gasped. Oh my, I completely forgot about them. Neji facepalmed. Well, I'm not surprised. The barrier will be let down when the barrier knows you are here and recognizes you have good intentions, Nia said. Uzumakis are allowed automatic passage. The dead ones of old created this barrier that will act like a living shield, an extension of the island herself. I wish I knew more about my clan, Naruto admitted. All I was told was that they were dead. My mother. Nia blinked. Your mother? Yeah, Naruto nodded. Uzumaki Kushina. She died when I was born, but some of her chakra exists in me. She wasn't able to tell me much. She barely remembered Uzushio, because she was brought to Konoha to be used as the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko. The Kyuubi, he remembers. Even though he's been here so few times. She laughed a little at that. Also, it was a nervous laugh. Nia stared. You are a Jinchuriki child? Amazing. Nia looked at Hattori. We found some mentions in the temple. Want to take a look? Neji's Byakugan activated and he looked in the direction of the barrier. Sake, Shikamaru, and Kiba are in, he reported. Headed this way now. Let's go into the temple, Naruto decided. Only you two may come in, Nia said. I do not know the others. I cannot allow them in. Naruto bit her lip. Naruto. Saki's shout made her glance back. Saki's face was red from exertion. Naruto, their chakra, she sucked in large breaths. Their chakras are overlapped by other chakras. The dead ones of old created this barrier that will act like a living shield, an extension of the island herself. Jinchuriki child. Nia's formal speech. Naruto kept herself calm. Why do you occupy their bodies? Neji looked angry. Neji, don't be angry. They're Uzumaki dead. They probably know of the Byakugan. We did this to see the next queen, Hattori's voice said, a double intonation in her voice. Creepy, really. To see you, queen. To meet you. You and us for the first time, us and you for the second. Huh? Naruto never saw it coming, after all, her back was turned. But the handle of a kunai hit the bundle of nerves in her neck, and she was out like a light. The two of the dead looked at the duo tied in the center of the seal. Time travel was an impossibility, well, not for the long dead with eternity on their hands. Time travel? Long since cracked. The seal was both a seal to travel to the past and a countdown seal that would attach itself to the two sitting in the middle. Once the time was up, they would be back here, not a minute later. Essentially, it was the seal itself that would be their bodies, as they wouldn't age a day. Complicated, but the ghosts had been there for a while, unable to rest because of their violent deaths. This would at least give them a little peace. Together, the ghost of Uzumaki Kona and Uzumaki Kamido sent the two spiraling into the past. Naruto's eyes cracked open. A burning sensation had made her body immobile for a while, but now that it had subsided, she felt a lot better. Or, well, she had. Before she realized she was being carried, princess style, by a male Uzumaki with wicked scars on his face. And she was tied up. Kaya, I don't want to sleep with you. She tried to maneuver herself out of his arms, but he looked down and she froze, intimidated by his glare. Naruto, please don't struggle. Neji's voice floated over to her, a bit high. Oh, she so wished she had a camera right now. Neji was also in a princess carry, looking resigned to his fate. Well, he hadn't quite lost his baby fat yet, so she couldn't say he didn't look like a Hyuga female. She shook with the effort of trying to stay silent, but eventually her guffaws broke through and she was laughing in the male Uzumaki's arms, finding the whole situation a tad ridiculous. Neji glared at her. Fuck you. He spat in that shrill voice. She thrashed in the man's arms, finding it hard to stop. Oh, camis. She gasped. I needed that. I really did. Why? Neji asked. Because Sake keeps trying to suck face with you? That wiped the smirk off of her face. She waited until they were dumped into a tent, secured together, then left alone to speak properly. She's not really interested in me, Tt Ibeo. She's just using me as a distraction. She is bio, though, Naruto added with a grin. Why is she using you? Oh, well, Itachi. You know, the guy who killed off her clan. Neji made a little noise that she interpreted as an affirmative. Naruto nodded. Yep, apparently she was engaged to him or something. She grew up with him, and me, sort of. She didn't particularly want to delve into that mess. Neji gasped. But, you didn't know Sasuke until the academy. I know. I knew Itachi and Shisui because they were part of my security. You know, because of my dad, Naruto hinted, in case people were listening. Him, Shisui, Yugo, and Kaka-sensei were part of my regular guard. Of course they switched out, and at first they never interacted with me, but Naruto closed her eyes and hunched in on herself a little. After an incident with a drunken mob, I had to learn how to protect myself. Yugo Ne-san taught me swords. Shisui taught me the Shunshin Jutsu and a little swordplay himself, while Itachi was a loser and trained while Shisui taught me. Kakashi never directly interacted with me until I officially met him after Iruka-sensei finally became my mother figure. Naruto sighed and shifted a little. It wasn't until I'd been Shisui's unofficial student that Sake crashed into my life, the only reason she was there being that she was still Itachi's betrothed. She had an incident with her Sharingan, got kicked out, but got a funded apartment, yada yada. Shisui, Sake, and I were the bane of Itachi's existence. Naruto smiled. Those had been fun days. I met a little boy, too. Yoda. Don't know what happened to him, only that he vanished and left me behind. Shisui wouldn't say anything about it, but I was on village lockdown the week he was killed. I had no idea why. Naruto closed her eyes. Itachi came to me that night. He was crying. I wanted to help him, but he left without saying a word. Sake vanished. I thought she was dead until I graduated and happened to realize she was part of the understaffed Intel Corps. She sighed and leaned her head forward. I picked up some sword skills from some other Junin, but it obviously stopped when I had to graduate dead last to do what the old man, the one before Ba-san, ordered me to do. Protect Sasuke. Naruto heaved a sigh. Neji leaned back. Why him and not Sake? Naruto gave a short chuckle. The nerds in the intel department rarely get out. You know Saki's pathetic stamina? You have got to be kidding me. Naruto snorted. I wish. She groaned a little. What did those ghosts do to us, anyway? Judging by the fact we're tied up, there are redheads everywhere, and the fact that the Uzumaki swirl is on every tent, I'd say the past, Neji said with a sigh. Naruto grinned, but then paused. Oh, fuck. She turned her head as far as she could. Neji, I hope to Kami you're used to your seal being messed with. I am, Neji whispered. Naruto took a few deep breaths. They were in the clan wars era. Uzumakis everywhere, which meant torture was definitely a possibility. Hold on, Neji said, sounding surprised. I think, Naruto, I think I see the Shodai. He paused. And the Nidaime. Naruto felt a deep curl of hate pervading her being. Kurama, what's wrong? This means this is nearing the founding of Konoha. Only about a decade before I was sealed in that bitch. Naruto swallowed. Mokuton was the only element that could stop Kurama, but Naruto didn't really. Oh, that wasn't only Kurama's hate. She hated Senju Tobirama. Like, bite his head off. A growl built in her chest. His fears about the Uchiha led to Shisui's death, Saki's tears. You cannot kill him now. If you do, what you do is irreversible. Naruto snarled at nothing. I want him dead. He caused everything. And yet, you probably wouldn't be aware of your heritage if you killed him. Although, it would create an interesting paradox. Who do you want dead? Neji asked. It's not as if I can kill the dude, Naruto sighed. Paradox, according to the fox. It's the Nidaime. He screwed up everything. Neji hummed. He gasped, then shifted forward. Neji? They're here. Senju Hashirama felt really weird. Like something wasn't supposed to be there. Entering the tent, he saw two children in strange clothes. Wait, no, the Hyuga was dressed in Hyuga clothes, and the redhead was the one dressed weirdly. Well, not really, it was difficult to explain. The girl wasn't wearing a dress like all women did, except for the few kunoichi in the clans, and even then, they didn't wear pants in non-combat situations. And their weapons were still on them, as the Uzumaki could clearly stop the girl in her tracks if she tried anything, same with the Hyuga. Hello, he said, trying to approach as nicely as he could. The girl glanced at him. The marks on her cheek gave her an exotic look, but the thought of her being a looker when she was older was revolting. Not that he was insulting her. Nope, she looked cute. I'm Senju Hashirama. Please, the girl scoffed. Don't treat us like civilians. Naruto, please, be nice. TCH, the hell should I be nice? His freaking allies kidnapped us, holding us against our will. We must have randomly appeared, thanks to whatever those two ghosts did. The Hyuga was keeping his face from them. Naruto gained an irk mark. You think if we say that it makes us look less crazy, TTE Bayo? No, it just makes us look like friggin' lunatics. stop yelling. Mito shut them up with her impressive set of lungs. And Naruto went silent. Hashirama had a bad feeling. You do not order me around. Yep, bad feeling. Tobirama stepped in. Little girl. You. The girl growled. Hashirama swore as he realized that she was getting pissed. And her chakra was rising. Mito's hand moved, and a scream sounded from the Hyuga. The girl's chakra evaporated. No. A pair of wide, horrified eyes met Hashirama's. Please, no. The redhead looked at Mito. I'll cooperate. I give you my word as an Uzumaki. Mito stopped the jutsu. What? Her voice was cold. Angry. The girl swallowed, and held her head up. I am Uzumaki Naruto, future queen of the Uzumaki. Hashirama looked at Mito, whose eyes flashed. What? She put her fingers in the same gesture. I'm willing to prove it, Tt Ibeo. If you lie to me, I will kill you, Mito snapped. Naruto looked at her, eyes shining with tears, and yet managing to look angry. And if you hurt Neji again, I'll kill you. Hashirama knew this kid wasn't joking. This kid claims to be our future queen, Mito said, shoving Naruto forward. Naruto fell down into the dirt. She heard the laughs, and her eye twitched and she rose from the dirt slowly. Your arms, Kit. Your upper arms are your proof. Naruto snapped the rope that bound her wrists. Then she ripped off both her sleeves of her shirt, glaring at them all. As everyone got a closer look, the two Senju looked highly confused. I am the queen of the Uzumaki in my time, Naruto proclaimed. I am a child of a Jinchuriki, and I am one. If my arms don't prove my lineage, then I give you permission to look through my memories if it is necessary. Everyone gave each other looks. Mito squeaked. She literally squeaked. Uzumaki-sama. She knelt. Naruto felt incredibly awkward as everyone bowed. She waved her hands frantically. Please don't bow. Neji burst out of the tent. Naruto. Are you? Naruto screamed in shock. Neji, she clutched her heart. You scared me. Neji stared at her. I was in the tent for a minute. A minute, Naruto. Naruto scowled at him. I didn't think you'd be up in time. Hashirama. Madara is coming, Tobirama interrupted. The Uzumakis rose, bustling, and pretty much ignoring Naruto as they got battle ready. Somehow Naruto and Neji stood next to the Senjus. Naruto bit her lip. She hadn't seen any sign of his Mokuton, so. Hey, Hashirama said. She looked up at him. Madara is not a bad guy. Tobirama snorted. And it's pretty much a peace meeting. No, Tobirama, stop scoffing. It's true, Hashirama snapped. I can handle it, Naruto said, ignoring Kurama's growl. Also, I hate you, Tobirama-san. She shot Tobirama a dirty look. You suck. Big time. Neji facepalmed. He's here. Tobirama ignored her words and looked in the direction that was the front of the camp. We should go. Please, future queen, stay here. Naruto rolled her eyes and did the henge jutsu, making herself appear older, traditional Uzumaki robes appearing on her. Her cheeks retained the whisker marks, and she knew she still looked younger than Hashirama and Tobirama, but she would not miss her chance to meet Konoha's first traitor. Neji sighed. Can you henge me? I wish to meet him, too. Naruto beamed. Sure. She closed her eyes, imagined what Neji would look like older, and called chakra to her hand. She was gifted in this art, as she pressed her hand onto his neck. When she opened her eyes, she blinked and stared at him. You look nice, she said to him, then looking at the two stunned-looking Senjus. Well, we going to meet him or what? He was hot. Naruto had to admit she was a sucker for tall, dark, and seriously why. And okay, she was only 14 right now and Kurama had told her on the way that they'd leave, but, oh my camis, it was nosebleed worthy as Hashirama moved to greet him. But Tobirama stopped him, and Hashirama sighed. Right. He made a few hand signs, and wood came out of nowhere. Naruto's jaw dropped. Oh my gosh Neji, he just used it. She went full fangirl mode. He just used it. My life is complete. Neji hit her on the head, an irk mark appearing. You idiot, do you want me to kill you for your idiocy? I swear you have gotten dumber. Sorry, the redhead said, standing up, a bit of blood trickling down her forehead. You have a nice right hook, husband. She smiled dazedly at him. Oh no. Neji was horrified. Did I hit you too hard? Oof. He was sent into the dirt by Naruto. Haha, my revenge. I am the awesomest person in the world. Naruto. Neji rose and looked quite murderous, his eyes in his Byakugan. "Oh, calm yourself," Naruto waved. "Hi, I'm Uzumaki Naruto, TT Ibeo." She went right up in the first trader of Konoha, smiled, and grabbed his hand, shaking it vigorously. "It's nice to know you're hot." Naruto slapped her mouth, going crimson. "Naruto." Madara looked startled. "Are you alright?" Naruto beamed. "Yep, just admiring your physique. Really, though, it must have been the head injury." She collapsed right there, pulled into her mindscape. Neji darted forward, checking over her for injuries. "If you had hurt her, I would have killed you," he said to Madara flatly. He must have hurt Naruto far more grievously than he thought. He carried her into the camp, ignoring the two gaping senjus. Really, Naruto was bold when she had a head injury. He sighed as he set her down, checking her head wound. It was as he assumed. The Kyuubi was probably pissed. "Head wound or not, you were flirting with Uchiha Madara. I realize that now. You're an idiot. I realize that, too, my awesome fox companion. Are they all that forward?" Madara asked, wondering if he'd have to deal with that person again. "No," Hashirama said flatly. "She recently got a rather bad head wound. In fact, you just saw it happen." They discussed other things as Mito came to sit down. It was nearing dusk as Madara shook Hashirama's hand, bowed over Mito, and began to walk away when a roar split the heavens. "This far inland?" Mito gasped. "But, it's a sea creature." Mito gasped. The couple from earlier raced to Mito. "Is it what was that?" "Neji-san, Naruto-sama, forgive me. The Hachibi is not native to this area, and I thought we were safe from it here. We brought only one of the sealers, and—" "No," Naruto replied, glancing at Madara briefly. "Madara-san, you, Mito-sama, and Hashirama-sama stop the chaos and tell nobody of the Hachibi. Tell them it's a forest monster. Tobirama-sama teme, I hate you, but we need to work together in order for this to work. The Hachibi must not be sealed yet. Do we understand each other?" Mito gritted her teeth, but nodded and bent her head. "Very well, Naruto-sama." Naruto's eyes flashed with guilt. "Oh, and Mito-sama, please only tell the ones with the adamantine chakra to come." Mito's eyes widened. "The sea is 5 days from here. I'm glad we understand each other, but I have a plan that doesn't really include the sea," Naruto grinned. Neji looked at Madara appraising Ly. Then veins bulged out on his head, and Madara tensed. Even though he'd thought he was a Hyuga, it was completely unheard of to marry outside the clan. "Naruto, the Hachibi is getting closer." He then glanced at Madara. "You even think about helping the Uzumakis seal the Biju and all. Do something." "Neji," the other redhead hissed in warning. "I shall go with you," Tobirama announced. "Then let's go." "Mito?" "Got it," Mito said with a sigh. Madara followed Mito hesitantly. He didn't want to cause any undue panic, after all. "Kamido, Kona, find Naruto and follow her orders to the letter," Mito said. "Madara, Hashirama, go help if you can." Both nodded and sprinted, Madara's Sharingan glowing. Naruto panted as she used her chakra on her chains. 2 others were there, with plain adamantine chains. Tobirama used his Flying Thunder God technique to pin the giant 8-tentacled being to the ground, while the Uzumakis used their chains to immobilize and more firmly pin the great being to the ground. Naruto made sure Tobirama wasn't watching, and created a clone of herself silently. Neji called to her. "Hashirama and Madara are approaching. Keep him occupied." Naruto focused and connected a thin stream of demonic energy to her clone. Then she fell to one knee and focused. Tobirama glanced at the queen of the Uzumaki, watching as she concentrated as a copy of her appeared. Chakra flared almost violently, and he flinched as he felt a massive burst of anger flare in the Biju. "Oh, hush it," the copy of the queen said. "I'm here, to honor something of the future here and now, in the past of my country. Hachibi-sama, I ask that you leave and never return to Uzushio. The Hachibi roared something indistinguishable to Tobirama. "I understand, but you have to understand their side," the redhead said. "Please." Madara burst into the clearing, his Sharingan eyes spinning. "Juken Hu. Hake Roku Juien Sho." Chakra-laced palms hit Madara's back, obviously closing his tenketsu. Still, Madara held his ground, turning to slam his hand into Neji's nose. A burst of smoke later, and Neji's true form was revealed, clutching his bleeding nose. You're just a child, Madara said, looking shocked. The Hachibi disappeared, a mini version of the monster scuttling away. Another poof of smoke, and the copy of the Queen of the Uzumaki vanished. The chains slipped back into the back of the users, the orange chains into Naruto's back. The Queen's disguise slipped off, and once again Tobirama was astonished at the young age of the Queen and her friend. The Queen passed out, her red hair spreading behind her. Naruto. Neji staggered to the young woman, glaring at the Uchiha as he passed. Tobirama privately thought that the glare he was giving Madara matched the hate the Queen of the Uzumakis had given him. The Queen stirred, and blinked. I hate shadow clones sometimes. She glanced at Tobirama, wide-eyed, and Tobirama glanced at his bruised brother as he limped up, pretending he didn't hear her words. Thank you, Kona-san, Kamido-san, Naruto was saying after Tobirama made quick work of being assured of his brother's safety. Please tell Mito-sama that I thank her. Will you not stay? Kamido asked, his voice deep. Naruto smiled. I don't think we can. Naruto held Neji's hand. Honestly, Tobirama felt like he was intruding quite a bit as Naruto smiled at Neji. I think it's time that we leave. Like, as in leave the past. You're going to your future? Kona asked, looking excited. Is it a good one? Naruto smiled a little. If I could answer that, being either dishonest or truthful, I would not know which is the truth or the lie, she responded seriously. Not evading the question, just not quite answering fully. She glanced at Madara and then Tobirama, looking troubled. Tobirama wondered why. Her gaze lingered last on Hashirama. Puzzlement in her eyes instead of the curiosity and the hate she'd had for Madara and Tobirama respectively. Within one blink and the next, the odd duo were gone. Naruto came to right as Sake burst in, blood coming from her head, having been literally tossed through the door by Kiba. Sake blinked as Hattori and Nya both crumpled, white mist exiting their bodies. So, the ghosts are gone? Sake asked in a weak tone. Yeah, Naruto nodded, feeling fine with zero chakra exhaustion. Let's get Hattori and Nya to a safer place. Sake nodded and got up. Naruto caught her friend as Kiba entered, stopping Sake from fainting. Kiba, Neji, Shika, can you three carry Nya and Hattori out? Just what is this place? Shikamaru grunted as he picked up half of Hattori, then used his shadow imitation ability to keep her in a standing position. I think it's an Uzumaki shrine, Naruto replied as they walked up the steps. I think we should keep it closed for now. Just for now, she added as the white mist seemed to swirl angrily. She stepped out of the shrine, blinking, and for a minute she swore she saw Mito standing not 5 feet away, looking as young as she did when Naruto had met her not a couple hours before. Mito vanished. Either she was a ghost, or she was just a remnant, watching. Either way, Naruto didn't want to know right then. Kiba watched as Naruto gave Hattori and Nya some medicine and administered first aid on Sake. He was kind of jealous of Neji. He'd been stuck with a woman that Kiba liked. Originally, it was Hinata, but he found he was quite disinterested in Hinata now. Now, he was kind of interested by Sake, but most of his interest was held by Naruto. He was pretty sure that it was useless. Her and Neji had more in common than Kiba and Naruto did, but maybe he'd have a chance when he was older. When all of them were older. Sake swatted Naruto's hand away, protesting she was fine. Kiba sighed lowly. You and Naruto are not going to be together, Shikamaru said lazily. You don't have a chance in hell. Kiba glared at Shika and threw a stick at his face. Not like the lazy ass cared. If Shikamaru had to guess, it would be that Neji and Naruto would, at some point in their lives, realize that they were compatible and then, at some point, marry and have the interesting mix of being the first Hyuga and Uzumaki to ever marry. Well, if the Uzumaki had a dujutsu, that would, assuming that the dujutsu was passed down through the line of the mother, result in possibly blind children. Of course, that was if they realized they were compatible. Sake didn't really factor into the equation, not unless Naruto was willing to change into a guy and give Sake the first, possibly the first, Uzumaki Uchiha breed of children. The fire crackled as they all got ready for bed, Hattori and Nya still sleeping quietly. Shikamaru sighed. There was time for thinking tomorrow. By the time the others had awoken, Naruto had been through a shocking revelation about the Uzumaki, Senju, and Uchiha, as well what that meant through her own lineage. Nia was stirring the breakfast soup as Naruto finished packing all the stuff up. Up and at him, Naruto called. Kiba, Shika, Sake, and Neji sat up, their hair untamed. Naruto shoved bowls of the soup in their faces. We're leaving Uzushio. Naruto beamed. We are going to Suna. An answering groan came from the still asleep teens. Akasuna no Sasori tilted his head as he looked at his spy. You failed me, for the first time. The silver-haired boy, Kabuto, flinched. I want the child who claims to be the Uzushio queen. I want her alive. If she is alive, I can make use of her chakra and powers, he added to himself almost distantly. You have 3 years to give her to me. You fail, you become part of my collection. Sasori tilted his head. You don't want that, now do you? The girl has powers, Kabuto said, bowing even further. She holds the Kyuubi no Yoko, is the child of a Jinchuriki. Sasori glared at him. I am no fool, he spat out. Kabuto recoiled a little. I want the girl alive. I will only tolerate failure so many times, Kabuto. Kabuto nodded frantically. As you command. Sasori nodded, satisfied. 3 years, he repeated. Deidara appeared, not yelling about art or announcing himself. He was rather irritable lately, but Sasori did not concern himself with that. Deidara, to ensure Kabuto does not betray me, embed in him a tracking bomb. If he betrays me, make it blow up. Instead of refusing, Deidara silently did as he was told. Rather unlike him, his art pieces were made quickly and burrowed under the skin of the informant. I have another puppet user to confront, the puppet man muttered to himself. Stir up trouble for the sand. Ah, what a good day. Of course, this was just to make Akasuna no Sasori more human. He had a plan for the Jinchuriki queen, and she would fall right into his trap. Deidara was far better at genjutsu than most, and Sasori had seen enough to know that Jinchuriki could detect illusions. He only needed a single moment. A single moment, and he would have the Jinchuriki girl under his control. He would make her like him, except he would keep the flesh. But making her bones metal would make them stronger. Yes, Sasori had several living puppets, all of them having some bloodline or another. Having a living Uzumaki with the Uzumaki chains. Ah, if Sasori could feel, he would feel smug. After she was turned into the living puppet, the Akatsuki could have the Kyuubi. All Sasori wanted was the queen and her abilities added to his collection. Oh, no, he couldn't wait. Kei's no Kuni was hot, dry, and sandy. Suna was hard to find at first, considering that Naruto had no clue just where Suna was located, but they found it after the 6th or 7th day thanks to Gaara and the Ichibi and a bunch of caravan bandits. A bunch of caravan bandits had drugged the small traveling group, just enough so that they were unable to move but able to speak. It was in their water, as the group hadn't thought to buy some more water from one of the several cities on the way. They'd figured they'd find Suna quickly, only to be quickly mistaken and lost. The 2 girls of the group were mostly stripped quickly, and Naruto tried to fight the drug. Kurama's chakra moved through her body, helping her, but Kurama said nothing. Naruto tried not to let that bother her as she started to fight against the ropes binding her. No, no, sweet thing, one of the bandits said. All you can do is. Naruto stopped struggling, going completely limp as sand suddenly assaulted the bandits. She snapped her ropes, and although she was still relatively naked, she walked through the camp and grabbed hers and Saki's clothes. She dressed Sake as quickly as possible, a sand wall covering their modesty. Naruto winced a little as screams assaulted her ears. As soon as they were done and the sand had quieted down, a head popped over. Tamari looked down upon them. Not that Naruto would have minded. Tamari was an ally, if not a friend. They're done, Gaara, Tamari called, vanishing over the top. The wall crumbled, and the sand siblings stood there, all stoic. Then Gaara stepped forward, grabbed Naruto's wrist with sand, and pulled her into a hug. Hello, Gaara said, after releasing Naruto. Hi, Gaara, Naruto smiled a little shyly, tucking some hair behind her ear. Well, hi. I was wondering if you could show us into Suna? Gaara tilted his head. Why? He asked. I need to ask your dad something, she said, frowning a little bit. And some water. Gaara nodded. Follow us. Gaara, Kankuro said, pausing at Gaara's look. Father said you were to have no contact with her. He glanced at Naruto. I also told him he sucked, Gaara said placidly. Naruto snorted. Perhaps if he knew who my dad was, he'd be more apt to listen. Who is your dad? Temari asked, frowning. The Yondaime Hokage, Naruto replied breezily. Also, this is Uchiha Sake, Sasuke's really distant cousin. Sake waved, then fixed her glasses. Can we get moving? My feet are killing me. And with that, they were off. Off to a new adventure. Rasa looked up as the door opened silently. Gaara stood there, looking calmer than Rasa had ever seen him. Father, the bandits were taken care of. Normally Gaara would walk away immediately after saying this, but he stood there, as if waiting for his father to talk. Alright, Gaara, out with it. Rasa may not have been the best parent, but that didn't mean he'd send his child away. Spending time with his kid was important, even if said kid was a raging psychopath with a raging psychopathic monster in his head. Naruto is here, Insuna. She wants to talk to you. Gaara looked at his father as if daring to tell him off for talking to the girl. And why would I talk to her? Rasa asked his son, leaving it as an open-ended question. Because she is the Yondaime Hokage's daughter, Gaara said, starting to turn away. And the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Rasa stared at his son's back. His son took his silence as a negative and started to close the door, but paused as Rasa sighed. Let her in. He glanced down at the scroll before him. Naruto, you can come in. Gaara's voice was still as calm as ever. A redhead entered, her hair a darker red than any Uzumaki that Rasa knew. I'm Uzumaki Naruto. She bit her lip, shifting on her feet. I came to ask you to teach me the blood clone jutsu. I want to restore my clan, our clan, to its former glory. She bowed her head and awaited his answer. Rasa thought to himself. Then he glanced at the scroll in front of him. You claim to have Uzumaki blood. If you do, I want you to prove it, he said, throwing the scroll at her. She opened it. A skeptical eyebrow was raised. I don't care how you do it. Execute the missing Nin Mukade, and I will teach you the blood clone technique. Naruto hesitated, her aquamarine eyes meeting Rasa's. He was startled. He recalled a woman with similar aquamarine eyes, although those eyes had far less blue in them than these. The hesitation passed, and she nodded. Fine, done. He settled back in his chair, and she bowed rather stiffly. Then she turned away. Thank you, Kasukage-sama, and one more question. She turned back to him, frowning. Who is Akasuna no Sasori? The Kasukage felt no obligation to withhold the information she sought this time. An S-ranked missing ninja from this village. Puppet master. I have heard that he has gone so far as to create a type of living puppets. Not that I condone that sort of thing from my ninja. The teen paled. Living puppets? Maybe bloodline users? Rasa frowned. Perhaps. Why? Oh, it's just I heard from an enemy that. Well, Sasori wanted me alive. She looked like she needed to sit. Gaara hadn't moved from his spot near the door, and Rasa watched his face go murderous. Gaara turned to Rasa. Consider this a diplomatic mission. You will accompany Naruto on her trip, and you will serve as her protector. Gaara nodded. Yes, father. Rasa leaned forward as Naruto stared at Rasa. It isn't that I doubt your claim, Naruto-san. It's just that I wish to be certain that if you are the queen of the Uzumaki, you don't die. If you're not, Gaara can kill you. I have no doubt you are an Uzumaki, however, I do doubt you are queen. Gaara, think of this as a step towards Kasukage. He smirked to himself triumphantly as Gaara, for the first time, showed surprise on his face. Naruto gave him a shaky, but seemingly genuine smile. Congrats, Gaara. She leapt on him, and Rasa winced and closed his eyes, waiting for the metallic scent of blood to stain the air. Naruto, stop touching me. I'm hugging you, Gaara. Stop hugging me, then. It's irritating. Screw you, Gaara. I'm hugging you whether you like it or not. I'll kill you, Gaara warned. No you won't, and if you did I'd haunt you from the afterlife, was the cheeky response given. Rasa opened his eyes. She looked fine, grinning at Gaara, unharmed. She still looked quite peaky, but considering the news she'd just received, it wasn't that unexpected. I expect a report soon, Rasa said, turning his chair around. Very well, father. Gaara seemed to shift, and 2 sets of footsteps left the office quietly. Rasa smirked to himself. If the two ended up together, well, all the more reason to push them into journeying together. I'm staying here, Shikamaru announced to the group as Gaara added to it. Tamari invited me to stay. Kankuru advised me to take the vacation. I want to go, Sake said with a grin. I'm obviously going, Neji said coolly. So, who are we after? Kiba asked, his tone eager. A missing ninja, named Mukade, Naruto said, tossing Shikamaru his bundle. He smiled lazily at her, then ambled out. He's headed to the ruins of Roron. The city whose princess vanished? Sake asked, perking up. With that sealed chakra reservoir in it? Everyone in the room turned to Sake. What? The Uchiha asked. I am an intel nin. Naruto grinned and slung an arm around Sake. So can you tell us if there's a report concerning this dude, like anywhere? Sake closed her eyes. Naruto waited, still intense. Sake had a perfect recall. Something that came in handy with eyes like the Sharingan, eyes that memorized everything like her mind. The Yondaime Hokage submitted a report. 3, maybe 4, years before he became Hokage. Sake frowned. I can't recall the rest of the report, she said, opening her eyes. Naruto frowned. Sake cut her off. I know, Naruto. What's wrong? Kiba asked, concerned, looking between Sake and Naruto. And how the hell don't I know you? You should have been in the academy with us. Naruto bit her lip. Kiba, chill out. She could be a spy, noted Neji. At the very least, she should have been in my class, as an Uchiha. I learned on my own, Sake snapped. I entered a Chunin exam by myself. Naruto helped me get in. I nearly won. I'm an Uchiha in name only, okay? Sasuke's my younger cousin. I didn't attend the academy because I was exiled from my clan, Sake informed them frostily. I awoke my Sharingan under odd circumstances. Naruto scowled at her. Odd circumstances, she cried. I was nearly beheaded by your cousin. You nearly killed him with an arrow. I wasn't aware I sucked that bad at archery until that moment. Who nearly killed who? Interrupted an amused-looking Shikamaru. Naruto blushed and Sake smirked. Well, Sake began, that smirk growing wider on her face. It started when my cousin, Shisui, decided to teach Naruto here archery. Several years ago. Naruto, I'm going to teach you archery. Shisui informed the younger girl, who blinked at him from behind her ramen. What's archery? Naruto asked, tilting her head adorably, not even fazed anymore about him randomly appearing in her apartment. Shisui was teaching her how to use weapons, mostly the sword, because that's what he was best at, of course, but it could get dull teaching her swordsmanship day in and day out when he was free. And while that was rarer now that he was in Anbu, he did ignore his less important duties to teach her stuff. He said it was more important to learn how to defend herself than his small jobs were. Well, it's more of target practice, because nobody uses bows anymore, Shisui chuckled. Bows and arrows, sweetie. Together, they're called archery. Naruto slurped up the rest of her ramen and took Shisui's hand. Shisui grinned, and with a flicker they were gone, to the amusement of her Anbu guards. He stole her again, Neko-san said with barely concealed laughter. Is this normal? Pig asked, sounding freaked out. Pig, chill out. He'll return her here when they're done, Neko sighed. Pig slumped in relief. Meanwhile, who wants Dango? Hubby offered cheerfully, manifesting a random pack of Pocky. Neko's sweat dropped. Hubby, that's Pocky. Naruto swallowed. Shisui's short sword was out to deflect any wayward arrows. Naruto settled into her stance, and just as she began to release the string, a voice cut the air. Oi, Shisui, whatcha? Naruto jerked, her arrow streaking towards Shisui. Shisui's sword flashed, deflecting the arrow and moving quickly away from the arrow. Sadly, Shisui overextended himself and lost his balance for a second, his arm jerking and Naruto screamed. A scream coming from the person approaching as Shisui nearly killed Naruto. And, as it turned out, made Saki's eyes turn red. Sake, Shisui said, regaining his balance. Naruto was sprawled on the ground, terrified out of her mind. You nearly killed me. That, Yusura Tonkachi is the one that nearly killed you. Sake screamed, pointing at Naruto wildly. Don't pretend you didn't distract me. Naruto screamed back. You're lucky I'm a ninja and not allowed to kill civilians. You're lucky I was the one who helped you become a ninja. Sake and Naruto glared at each other for a moment before huffing and looking away from each other. Shisui started to laugh, and at that sound both girls looked at him. He fell on the ground, still laughing, and Naruto looked at Sake, who nodded. Both children pounced on Shisui, who laughed even harder at their antics. They were rivals and the best of friends after all. We fell asleep on his lap, but when we woke up, Itachi was talking to Shisui, Sake finished explaining. We all knew each other, even if Naruto was only a little familiar to Itachi. Sake, I think you should tell them, Naruto said, catching their attention. Gaara, who was unfamiliar with the ninja Shisui, had looked over at Sake's mention of Itachi. Most people knew of the massacre, after all, even if they lived as a hermit on top of a mountain with zero entertainment but the bugs. An entire Kekkei Genkai line pretty much wiped out? That was obviously spread to even the highest mountain. Sake sighed. Yeah, I guess you're right. She adjusted her nerdy glasses. The reason I kept the Uchiha name, despite my banishment after that, because I hurt my mother with my Sharingan. Let's just say that when activated, the Sharingan introduces a lot of hate the first few times it's used. I am betrothed to Uchiha Itachi, the killer of my clan. And until his death, I am still obligated to marry him. A moment of silence. Well, that's, Kiba, ever insensitive, spoke up. That sucks. I'm sorry, Sake. Sake shrugged. Doesn't matter, now, does it? If Itachi dies, I'm going to have to get married to Sasuke if he's officially returned to Konoha services. However, if I left Konoha, I would be free from my duty as an Uchiha. Naruto leaned forward as they all looked confused, and in a loud whisper, said, she has to get pregnant by either Sasuke or Itachi. Sake slapped the back of her head. Itai, don't gossip. Sake glared at Naruto. Naruto held her head. I only told them because if Itachi comes after me and you're with me, he could kill you. Sake shrugged. He killed my mom, my aunt, everyone I actually cared about. I don't care if he kills me, too. She stood up and went into her room. Naruto swallowed as the others looked to her. The Akatsuki are after me, she finally said. It's Uchiha Itachi, to be specific. And a fish guy. Don't know his name, I didn't really pay attention. And is Sasori part of this organization? Shikamaru asked Gaara. Gaara nodded. That is what Orochimaru said during one of his rages, when father allowed him free reign in the Suna forces. So that would mean Deidara is one of them, Naruto frowned. And if Sasori's after you, and Itachi is after you, it might mean that they will try to capture you, Shikamaru said, sitting back down on one of the beds. This is bad news. Really bad news. You're telling me, Naruto chuckled. Look, we'll come back to Suna with Gaara, and we'll discuss it then. Right now, I want to go to sleep, start our mission in the morning, and hopefully be back before the month ends. After that, we'll figure out what we're doing, okay? Shikamaru nodded. Sounds like a plan that won't work, but fine. Naruto facepalmed as Shikamaru left. She turned to Gaara. You should probably get some sleep, too. Are you not going in the same room as? Naruto transformed to her male self. Night, he said, laying down and pulling the covers over himself. Unless you want to share a bed, Gaara. Gaara slowly slipped in the bed. You know I can't sleep. I forgot, Naruto replied breezily. Night, guys. Turn off the light when you're done. He dropped off to sleep rather quickly, and the light was turned off soon afterwards as the others settled down for the night. Well rested, and Sake slightly moody from the night before, the group of 5 set out, sharing grins and laughter. Well, Neji was as silent as ever, but the point was he seemed content. Naruto tried, with 0 results, to drag him into the conversation. Multiple times, even Sake was talking and chatting. Well, until they reached a town. All laughter and happiness abruptly halted as the destruction before them met their eyes. This is. Naruto's eyes flashed with barely concealed rage. I can smell the scent of wood. Kurama's voice made Naruto shriek in surprise. At the looks from her companions at the girly cry, Naruto calmed down and told them. Kyuubi's finally awake. She paused. And he says it smells like wood. Saki's brow furrowed, and she opened the scroll Naruto had given her. If this is Kisanka town, then this is the town that Mukade was last spotted in, she informed the group as a whole. Then Mukade has a lot more to answer for than father said, Gaara said, clenching his fists and letting killer intent leak out. Naruto was pretty much unaffected by it, as was Sake. Neji leapt forward and shoved his hands forward. A cracking sound filled the air. Genjutsu, Neji offered. What my normal eyes see, my Byakugan pierces the veil. Sake vanished from her spot. Sake? Sake. Naruto was scared that Mukade had her friend. Oh, relax. Saki's slightly pained voice made Naruto turn and look at her. How the hell did Saki get from one place to another in the span of a second? I just used my Mangekyu. Saki was clutching her bleeding eye, which was in an odd pattern. Well, not odd, exactly. Odd to be in an eye. It looked like a clock, with only 4 dots around the iris. I basically slowed time down long enough for me to see what this place actually was. And it's the fallen city of Roron. Someone is casting a wide-range genjutsu that only affects non-dujutsu users, Neji added. Naruto nodded. Kurama. Mind if I use your chakra to blast it away? Not at all, Kurama growled happily. I don't even know how you were affected. You or that brainless fool Shukaku. Naruto hid her smile from Gaara. Everyone move away from me. Now. Everyone did, and Naruto focused. But she couldn't use up all her chakra, it was almost impossible. She sighed and opened her eyes, frustrated. The illusion was wavering, but she couldn't. She had an idea. Neji. Block my tenketsu. Neji's eyes widened. Naruto. I'm serious, Naruto interrupted him. Just do it. Neji nodded, then settled into the Jukin stance. Not warning her, he shot forward and slammed his hands into her tenketsu. When he was done, Naruto coughed up some blood. She waved him away, then nodded. I can work with this. She was kind of scared, to be honest. She could rip her chakra coils to shreds. But Kurama wasn't a demon for nothing. Well, she just hoped that if she did rip her coils he could heal them. Kurama's chakra exploded out from her, blasting away the illusion. Gaara flinched, hate in his eyes for a single minute before everything was okay again with him. Of course, he wasn't okay, but he was fine for now. There was no telling what could happen later. I think that's Mukade's puppets, Naruto panted, pointing at the person-shaped things in the doorway of the ruin. Wow, you really should get some better-looking puppets. They vanished, and they all gaped for a minute. Genjutsu again. Who were you talking to? Saki asked, glancing at her friend. Me, myself, and I, Naruto replied shortly. Did you get a concussion? Saki asked, lifting an eyebrow. Not today, Naruto answered truthfully. Okay, Saki said after a moment. Gaara, you seem to be at a disadvantage. Neji, we'll need you to distinguish between genjutsu and non-genjutsu. Naruto, you use your sword and channel chakra into it, cutting the strings Neji sees. As soon as I see the real puppet master, I will put him in a genjutsu. Kiba, stay with Gaara, make sure the puppet man doesn't escape. Kiba nodded shortly, and he moved to guard. Naruto, Saki, and Neji darted to the building, and Naruto cut blindly, trusting Neji to tell her where to go. She'd have to get lessons on using her sword in the dark. Naruto, I'm going to blast the rest of the genjutsu through the sword. Be ready. Naruto swallowed. The Kyuubi is going to take the rest of it down with his chakra, she said in a hushed voice. Saki nodded. Naruto held the blade out. Kurama's chakra exploded, this time wiping away all the genjutsu instead of just half of it. Naruto blinked as it receded, back into the sword. The missing nin had looked up, smirking. His sallow face did not lend credibility to the fact that he had lived in Suna at one point. Oh, smart children. He glanced at Naruto's red katana. But you're too late. He ripped off the seal that none of them had noticed. Chakra exploded out, and Naruto passed out as it did, feeling the power grow and pass over them. Her limbs felt like she'd been dipped in acid, then run astray of a lightning jutsu. Every pore hurt, like she'd gone through a particularly painful Kyuubi transformation. All in all, she was not feeling well when she woke up, and should be completely forgiven for throwing up on the shinobi's shoes in front of her. Ew, that's nasty, Saki's voice said. Naruto immediately gained a pounding headache and groaned as she collapsed, closing her eyes. She's exhausted. I'll take you to my camp for the night. Even though she puked on your shoes? Uchiha-san, shoes can be cleaned. The girl is obviously sick, and when we get to camp, our standby medic can tell us what's wrong with her. If you say so. Is my other friend safe there? You can come and see, the second voice said. Naruto was picked up, and she had enough sense to turn her face away from the shinobi's outfit. But all too soon, the young teen was fast asleep and her head was on the shinobi's outfit. Nothing serious, just chakra overload. She should be coming around any minute, TT Ebane, a familiar voice hit Naruto's ears. Of course, she'd heard this voice before, inside her own chakra. Her mother, the one who had told her how to release her chains, was sitting close to her. Naruto opened her eyes. She still felt like she was going to throw up, but the headache had eased. She stared around the camp. Sake? Sake jumped. Yes, Naruto? Naruto kept her tone even. Where am I? Just outside Roron, 20 years or so in the past, Sake said, still cheerful. Sake? Sake twitched. Yes? Is this real? Naruto was sure that her voice wavered. Yes, you moron. Sake slapped the back of her head. It's real, geez. Believe me, I was freaking out a little, too. But look. Sake yanked Naruto's head around. It's Hitaki Kakashi, miniaturized. Said Miniature stared at them impassively. Naruto couldn't help herself. She swept the kid version of her sensei in a hug and squeezed him. So kawaii. She likes cute things, Sake muttered out loud. And look, it's my cousin. Obito. Naruto froze, poor Kakashi still in her arms, then looked at the Uchiha wearing the goggles. And dropped Kakashi, hugging the Uchiha. Not 5 minutes later and Naruto was nursing a bump given to her by none other than an irked Neji. Talk about spousal abuse, an amused-looking Sake said. We're not married. Both Naruto and Neji yelled. As funny as this is, Naruto's amused almost father said, this doesn't quite help matters. Naruto sobered up quickly. He has a good point, she nodded, going for her sword to check that it was still there, only to panic and reach for it once more. My katana. You must have dropped it, Sake said quietly. Naruto scowled. It's possible, she reluctantly agreed. Or the Ryumyaku didn't let it in. That is more probable, Neji replied. He activated his Byakugan. I can see chakra strings all over the city, he said after a moment. Too bad we have no weapons to cut them with. Minato coughed. We do, actually. Naruto had a thought. Why are you taking this so calmly? Minato smiled. Because I don't think you three could manage a solid lie when you were unconscious, or close to it, when I found you. Your Hyuga friend was saving the princess's life. And your Uchiha friend was hanging from one of the Ryumyaku pipes on nothing but a single piece of frayed ninja wire. There was a moment of silence. Sorry about the shoes, Naruto winced after a moment. I cleaned them while Kushina was diagnosing you, Minato replied with a placid smile. Naruto frowned and turned to her. How are you able to do that? She asked her almost mother. Especially with the Kyuubi in you. Kushina froze. How did you know that? She asked suspiciously. Naruto hesitated, then sighed. Because the Kyuubi told me, she admitted. Kushina stared at her. You're a Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, too? Why? Did I die? Naruto looked away, keeping her lips pressed together. There was a silence. I see, Kushina said, sounding shaken. Naruto looked up at her. It was for a great cause. I think. No, I'm pretty sure. She smiled at Kushina, and she hoped her smile wasn't as wavering as she thought it was. It was almost physically painful to see Kushina sitting there with Minato, so calm. I'm going to go. Go, Naruto added, standing up and walking a little ways out of the camp. She sat down and started to meditate. Hey, she wanted the quiet, and Kurama was sleeping, the lazy Biju. It wasn't long before she heard approaching footsteps, and smelled a scent that she'd never smelled before. Kurama probably had, but not Naruto, so it was probably Obito. Mind if I sit next to you? Yep, definitely Obito. No, of course not, Naruto replied. It's a free space. He sat down. Are you related to Kushina-san? Naruto opened her eyes, the moon's pearly rays shining down on them. I am. She looked over to the boy. You're related to Sake, aren't you? Obito snorted. All Uchiha are related in some way. Naruto curled her nose. That's disgusting. Obito's eyes popped out. Wait, I didn't mean it like that. I meant we're all distantly related, like fifth cousins 12 times removed. Naruto's sweat dropped. You suck at explaining things. Then you explain your relation to Kushina-san. Obito ordered. She's my mother, Naruto deadpanned. Obito went quiet. Oh, so. You know her then? Naruto shook her head, hugging her knees. No, I grew up as an orphan. At his look, she explained further. They died the day I was born. His face transformed into pity. Don't pity me, Naruto snapped, looking away from him. I'm sorry, though, he told her. I got to enjoy a few years with my parents. I don't remember them that much. I bet you've suffered a lot, huh? Naruto's lips twisted into a bitter smile. Yeah, you could say that, she replied, looking up at the moon. The wind blew, lifting Naruto's free hair and letting it dance in the wind. Sorry about the hugging. I can't help but hug cute things. It's fine, Obito replied. Kakashi's 9. I'm 13, though, so please don't do it again. Naruto snorted. I'm 14. She cheered. But then his statement about Kakashi rang in her mind. He's 9? He graduated the academy when he was 5, Obito said, tilting his head curiously. Made Chunin at 6. Naruto's eyebrow twitched. My sensei is 9 right now. 9. Kurama shifted, opening his eyes. You always knew he was a genius. I didn't know he was 5 when he graduated the academy. Kurama snorted. You should have asked him then. He probably would have deflected, Naruto retorted. Kurama sniffed. That scent is the one that I was controlled by. Naruto could feel his anger, but she wouldn't let him hurt Obito. Kurama, we can't change time. We do that, all that we've done probably won't matter. If I kill him now. You will not kill him, Kurama. Unless you want me to kill us both. There was a pause, and Naruto gasped, sweat pouring off of her face. Are you okay? You looked like you were really struggling for a minute there, Obito said, concern in his voice. Fine, Naruto said, laying back to look at the stars. Do I survive in the future? Naruto wished she could lie. But she knew she couldn't. After all of her father's team died, except for Kakashi. No, she answered softly. Kakashi's the only one I know of that does. He's my sensei, former sensei, I don't even know anymore. Kakashi is a sensei? Squeaked Obito. Naruto was glad he didn't focus on the fact he didn't survive. Naruto grinned mischievously. Better give her sensei's dead teammate some ammo. Yeah, he reads porn in front of us, too, she smirked. Obito's face turned even more horrified. He turned too. Obito's exclamation drew the attention of the other members at the camp, where tension was very high. At the yell, though, Sake snorted and Neji went a little pink. Who did? Kakashi and Minato asked at the same time. Nobody, Sake lied. Sake was a horrible liar. It's Genma-san, Neji said smoothly. Sake turned to him. I thought it was Raita-san that turned into the pervert. You've never heard Genma-san inside a pub. Guy-sensei has, Neji replied. That loser made it as a shinobi? Kakashi asked, his charcoal eyes wide. Please don't insult my sensei, Neji requested, closing his eyes. Other than you, Kakashi-san, he is the best sensei in Konoha. I'm a sensei? Kakashi asked, lost. What about me? Minato questioned. Both Sake and Neji fell quite silent. Minato said after a moment. You're remembered, Sake said with a smile. And I really am glad to meet you in person. You're my hero, and Naruto's. Sake, Neji said quietly, then whispered something in her ear. A look of realization passed over Sake's face. Neji elbowed her. Sake gasped. Okay, won't say, she wheezed. We can't change history, Neji said in an apologetic way. Anyway, is there any way we can help you keep the princess safe? Minato glanced at Kushina. There might be, he said reluctantly. We can separate into groups of 2, and I can go by myself. But perhaps Neji-san could go with Kakashi-kun, and Sake-san. Sake-chan, please, Sake smiled. Sake-chan can go with Kushina. Naruto-san can go with Obito-kun. Of course, Neji nodded. You probably want them to keep an eye on us, correct? Seeing as the only Konoha ninja is Sake and we're only Konoha affiliated. Naruto would never do something to harm Konoha. Sake objected, her eyes spinning into their menacing Sharingan that obviously startled Minato, as he reached for his kunai simply out of reflex. Sake, we claim to be in the past with nothing but, Neji stopped. Then he looked directly at Kushina. Naruto would never do anything to harm Konoha because she is the last Konoha-affiliated Uzumaki. His words stunned the group. But even so, I believe Minato-sama is correct. Watching us would do no harm if we don't do anything suspicious. You, Sake, scream suspicious because you actually tolerate my presence. Uchiha versus Hyuga, who cares, grumbled Sake. Fine, I won't be angry. But it was clear she was. As the dawn lighted the sky, they all set off in pairs. Naruto and Obito got along like a house on fire, which was alarming in several ways. Neji and Kakashi barely acknowledged each other, and Sake looked up to Kushina like she was the best thing ever as Kushina put her hair up, then put Naruto's long hair up after reprimanding the younger teen to keep her hair up at all times. "Let's go," Minato ordered, and the pairs vanished. The city was alive. That was Naruto's first impression. Her second, upon a closer look, made her lip curl and made her shudder in disgust. "What is it?" Obito questioned. Naruto pointed down at the civilians. Obito peered down, through his goggles, and sighed. "Yeah, and?" he asked. "They're not humans," Naruto snapped. "They're puppets." Obito took the goggles off. "Oh, I see now," he said to her, his eyes widening in comprehension. "And the chakra strings are." He took out a blade with the leaf symbol on it, and channeled chakra to it. Carefully, he leaned out, and chakra started spreading all over the city. Not just a select few of these civilians were puppets, all of them were. "We need to get to the princess," Naruto said urgently. "It would have been great to have Shikamaru here, but nope. He wasn't." "Right." Obito sheathed the chakra blade, and both Naruto and Obito darted up the pipes. Making their way to the big palatial building, the Uzumaki and the Uchiha darted in, sticking with the shadows, to enter the throne room. "I am terrified, Anroku-san. What if someone tries to push me off like they did yesterday?" "You are so naive," the pale, fat guy said to the princess. Naruto gaped at the pale figure. "He got big," she murmured to Obito, who frowned at her. She noticed. "What? He's a missing nin. I don't have to be polite when speaking about him, do I?" Obito rolled his eyes. Naruto took a deep breath, and leapt into the room. "Oi, Mukade," she grinned easily. "Miss me?" The missing nin scowled at her. "You," he shouted. "You will not get in my way this time." "I didn't get in your way last time," Naruto frowned. "Where's your blonde companion?" Naruto's eyebrow twitched. "She didn't look like her mother, did she?" "Oh, wait, you're the child from 6 years ago." The pale guy snapped his fingers and a bunch of puppets appeared, attacking Naruto, who stared at them with calmness. Then, she summoned hundreds of clones, and they attacked the puppets. Then she carelessly summoned a lot more, and they formed Rasengans. But the Rasengans grew in size, and consumed a lot of her chakra. The teenage Jinchuriki exploded forward again, the wave of clones following. The puppets were shredded, and as the smoke cleared, Mukade was gone. Obito glanced at his current partner. She was hiding something from him, hiding her arm. "Can I see it?" he asked her, concerned for her health. She nodded, and withdrew her fingers. Obito recoiled as he gazed at her stump. "Your arm. It's fine. It just hurts a lot." Naruto waved his concern away. "Let's go fight the missing ninja." She took a deep breath and jumped out of the tower, ignoring the princess. Obito followed her. For a normal human, it was a lethal jump. For ninja, it was just a cliff. Plus, ninja could walk on walls. "Naruto." Sake looked at her friend, her Sharingan active. "Why did you lose an arm?" "I did something stupid, but that's par the course for me, isn't it?" Naruto beamed, obviously trying to escape her worries. Obito eyed the Hyuga, whose attention was on her arm. "It's repairing itself," he said, looking surprised. Kushina grinned and tugged Naruto next to her, brushing the separated limb with her side and making Naruto go pale white. "That's because the Kyuubi's a demon, after all, and not likely to let his host go without a limb." "Kushina-san, I think you're hurting her," Obito said, making Kushina take notice of the pained pale teen. "Oh, I'm sorry," gushed Kushina, "but it should be healing faster, why isn't?" Naruto looked away. "I only have half the Kyuubi inside me. The other half's in the Shinigami's stomach, so don't worry," she added hastily at the other woman. But then there was that rage in her eyes, and Obito saw them go red before Naruto's face was turned away. She'd seemed angry about something, or was it the Kyuubi? "Naruto, don't you have control over it?" Kushina asked cautiously. Naruto turned to her, aqua eyes flashing. "Of course I do," she cried indignantly. "But he isn't calm around Uchihas. Unless they're Sake, because Sake is Sake, and he doesn't like you, so of course I'll slip a few times." She looked like she regretted the statement as Kushina's eyebrow rose. Naruto blushed and cleared her throat. "Anyway, let's do this." She grabbed Obito's hand and tugged him forward. Obito yelped. "Oi, what are you doing? Taking you to fight a missing nin, that's what. Battlefield experience, nothing like it. But, come on, she has nothing against you," Sake mentioned upon the team's separation from Minato. Kushina frowned at her. Then why does she look at me like I'm a foreign object to her? I should have died years after I met her, if she's an Uzumaki. Sake stopped in her tracks and rummaged in her backpack she always seemed to have with her. Is it? Yes. She brought out a picture and showed it to the red-headed woman. That was before she got banished from Konoha. Kushina stared at the picture. A blonde-haired child stood in the picture, looking quite like a boy with short, Minato-like hair. Blue eyes gleamed in the picture, and a smile showed clearly beneath whisker-marked cheeks. Blue eyes. Uzumaki. Red hair. Uzumaki. Kushina was the last Uzumaki in Konoha. She grew up an orphan? Sake nodded, examining her. Kushina put a hand to her mouth, horrified. She's my daughter? Mine and Minato's? She honestly couldn't imagine marrying Minato, let alone having a child with him. Not that she didn't like him, but Minato hadn't shown any interest in her for ages. She'd had Hisashi's affections to contend with instead. Something awful bubbled in Kushina's stomach. Her daughter had grown up, parentless, because she had married and had a child with Minato. You can't change the future, Sake said, shaking Kushina out of it. Naruto, I think, knows this. That's why she's stopping Kyuubi from killing Obito, I think. Kushina collapsed on her knees. She felt an unholy glee in her and knew it came from the Kyuubi. What do I do? She didn't want her only child to grow up, alone and unwanted. If she could. You change time, and it will create such a paradox that this entire universe might destroy itself. Sake hissed at the red-headed woman, Sharingan flaring in her agitation. Not to mention Naruto's rage when she finds out I told you. Gah, I wasn't supposed to say anything. The black cat yanked her black hair. Kushina looked at Sake. Why not? She's my daughter. You died the night she was born. The black cat shrieked at her. Oh. Kushina groaned and put her hands over her eyes. Oh, dear. One half of the Kyuubi is in the Shinigami's stomach. Fuck, Kushina said dismally. I died because of the Kyuubi's extraction. Sake shrugged. Who knows? Well, I think Naruto might know, but I have never asked. At Kushina's questioning look, Sake shrugged. Naruto helped me become Chunin and a ninja. I ain't gonna pry into her when she doesn't pry into my business. What about your parents? Kushina blurted. She looked like Makoto, after all, it could be. Dead. Itachi killed the entire clan apart from me, Sasuke, and himself. She said it as though having your clan slaughtered was one of the most natural things in the world. But Kushina sympathized. She recalled the destruction of her own home, Uzushio, and knew just how it felt. How painful it was to go home to an empty compound, to find ninjas sliding in and trying to take advantage of her status as the last Uzumaki in Konoha. Kushina didn't know of any survivors. She tugged Sake in a hug. I am so sorry, she whispered in a genuinely sad tone. Sake didn't use sarcasm to speak back. She merely hugged Kushina back. And then the moment was lost when a puppet exploded and fell at their feet. Neji didn't really care for Kakashi's attitude. No wonder he joined Anbu. He was an asshole. An even bigger asshole than Neji had been, and that was saying something. It doesn't matter if you have a dujutsu, Kakashi informed him loftily. Or older that I am a chunin. I'm going to maim Kakashi-sensei when I see him, Neji thought desperately as he looked and cut several wires with a chakra-enhanced kunai. Jukin his balls off, unless he has a reason for keeping them. He used an air palm to blast the idiot genius away from an incoming puppet, and said idiot genius turned furious dark eyes on him. As the Chunin started ranting on how he wanted to die as a shinobi, Neji slammed a fist in his head, knocking him out cold. He made sure to conserve his chakra, and only activated his Byakugan every few minutes while destroying puppets that dared come near him. The 15-year-old ignored the unconscious body of the 9-year-old behind him. Do I ever activate my Sharingan? Obito asked in the middle of destroying puppets. I think? I don't. Yeah, you do. The other teen called back. Sweet. But I think you die not long after getting it, so. I don't care. I activate my Sharingan. Obito was happier. Half of the destroyed part of the older future teen's arm had come back. Not that the teen in question cared. Yellow chakra acted as her arm, receding with every inch she healed. None of her current cuts healed yet. Obito was just going to assume that the healing power was going to her arm. How are we going to fully get rid of this guy? He asked, jumping and avoiding a slash. Know any Kaden jutsu you can teach me the hand signs to? Obito grinned almost evilly, and quickly coaxed her through the hand signs for the Uchiha's signature Great Fireball technique. She placed her fingers in those symbols, and then blew out. Out came the largest fireball Obito had ever seen, burning a path through the puppets. His eyes watered even behind his goggles, and one of the puppets fell and exploded. Sake appeared, looking fresh and ready, her glasses being fixed to her face quickly. "Fireballs?" she asked Obito with a grin, and he matched it. "Kushina-san, you know the fireball technique, right?" In unison, the group did the hand signs and spewed giant fireballs from their mouths. And, quite quickly, the enemy was reduced to naught but ash. "I really must thank you," Sarah insisted. "Before you seal it away, please. Enjoy a night of feasting and celebration. Which means an added couple of days staying here, huh?" Obito grinned. "Good thing you sent for Rin before the time travelers got here. She'll be able to help with the healing." Naruto perked up. "Does that mean we'll be able to stay for now?" she asked eagerly. Minato's sweat dropped at the time travelers' countenances. They were too eager to stay, even Naruto was overeager. But from what he'd gathered by watching her with Obito, she was usually like that. Sake dropped something, and Minato's eyes automatically went to it. It was a photo. Oh, damn. Naruto was frozen, staring at the photo. It was obviously a photo that was taken with her and two other kids completely unaware of it. But she was blonde and looked quite like a guy. Her companions were a pinkhead, who was laughing with her eyes closed, and an Uchiha who looked like he was trying not to smile. "Sake, how did you get that picture?" Naruto's question was puzzled. "Because we never really spoke," Sake said, picking it up. "Plus, I had to keep an eye on Sasuke." "That's my youngest cousin?" Obito asked, staring at Sasuke. "He looks constipated." Neji snorted as he walked up with an unconscious Kakashi. "What happened to my student?" Minato asked, tilting his head. "Officially, I would say that a stray bit of puppet knocked him out," the Hyuga said blandly. "And officially?" Minato asked, trying not to smirk. "I knocked him out because he was being a bigger asshole than I ever have been." Naruto gasped, taking her eyes off the picture and looking at Neji in mock amazement. "So there's finally someone with a bigger ego than you? Astounding. Marvelous. Ama, please, shut up now," Neji requested. Then he paused and cleared his throat. "If we're staying here, do you want to go to the celebration with me?" Naruto blinked at him. "Sure," she said, "but we're all going together, right?" Everyone except Sake face-faulted. Sake leaned over and whispered something that sounded suspiciously like, "He's asking you on a date, moron." "Oh," Naruto said, eyes wide, a blush dusting her cheeks. She scuffed her sandals against the ground. Sure, Neji. I'd love to go with you." Neji smiled, pleased. Nohara Rin eyed her sensei, Kushina-san, and Inoichi-san, the ninja who had volunteered to escort her to her team. Her entire team had been acting oddly. First of all, Kushina got a pensive look on her face every time she looked at Minato, who was gazing vacantly on a piece of paper he was dripping ink all over. Then Obito had his goggles off and muttering to himself, and Kakashi was in the bathroom, throwing up for some reason. Rin's voice caught their attention. "Did something happen while I was gone?" "Time travelers," offered Kushina. "And I'm not kidding, they're on the floor above us." Rin could hear them, but chose to ignore them for now. "Rin, you're here." Obito looked pleased, and Rin smiled at him brightly. "What happened to Kakashi?" she whispered to him. Obito grinned. Officially, a stray bit of puppet hit him in the head. "He's got a concussion, so he won't be joining the celebration tonight." He took her hand and walked to the closet. "Queen Sarah said you can choose any of these kimonos or yukatas for the celebration tonight. Tomorrow's the last day we'll be here and it'll be a working day." Rin smiled. "Oh, thank you, Obito," she said sincerely. Obito blushed. Don't mention it." He rubbed the back of his head. A thud upstairs. "Wear it, Naruto." "Fuck you, Sake. I ain't wearing it. Neji will be back any minute, now put the damn thing on." "I hate the color gray, I'm not wearing it." Rin's sweat dropped. "They're nice," Obito said with a nervous chuckle. "I'll take your word for it." Rin smiled at him. Naruto glared at Sake, who smirked at her. After putting on the stupid yukata, it was revealed to be a blood-red yukata that had black rose petals decorating it with separating sleeves so her shoulders stuck out. Sake had put a genjutsu on it, and since Kurama was still putting the finishing touches on her arm, she had to deal with not being immune to genjutsu. You didn't have to put me under genjutsu to get me to wear it, Naruto said to her friend. Yeah, well, it was funny. They exited the room, and Neji stood there, wearing a midnight blue yukata with waves at the bottom of it. Naruto blushed. Midnight blue really worked for him. They joined the other team, who stared at Naruto and Sake, who wore a lavender one with even lighter butterflies over it. Naruto blinked at Kushina's plain black yukata and Minato's plain dark blue one. You guys are boring, she said flatly. She went on to see Rin wearing a light red yukata with sakura petals near the bottom, and Obito wearing a yukata that was also navy blue. But his was plain as well. Your arm. It's back, Obito said, staring at her arm. Naruto scowled. Mostly, yes. Her fingers were still tiny, though, and it was an odd sight for her. She fed golden chakra to them, not liking the feeling of it, but she staggered into Neji, feeling suddenly exhausted. Are you alright? Neji questioned. Naruto nodded. I'm good enough. She straightened and gave the others a brilliant smile. You must be Rin. She skipped over to the other group and shook Rin's hand. It's amazing to meet you, it really is. Rin grinned. It's nice to meet you, she said shyly. Konoha, Naruto's time. Tsunade was looking through all of Danzo's items. His death had caused a young boy with no name to step up and speak to her. Of course she was pissed when it came to light, what the darkness of her village had done. To think he'd been right outside Konoha this entire time. She tensed as she read a particular statement. She stood up and slammed her hand on the desk. Gamma, Oni. Get the boy who came forward and his partner. At once, the two bowed. The entire assembled forces of Root were in lockdown in their facility. Right before the duo flickered away, Tsunade stopped them. Forget it, I won't risk anyone else fleeing. I'll go to the facility instead. Shizune, you'll overlook the mission sending. Shizune stuttered out a, yes, Lady Tsunade, and was behind the large desk. Tsunade took the small book she was reading the papers out of and carried it with her as Gamma and Oni walked her to her destination. The nameless boy was thin and pale. Like paper white. His black hair and eyes made him look even paler. His black clothes didn't lend him any color. Do you have a name you went by in missions? Tsunade asked the boy. The boy smiled fakely. Danzo-sama changed them every time. The latest name was Sai. Okay, may I address you as Sai, or do you prefer something else? The black-haired boy looked at her blankly. Are you asking me what I want to be called? Tsunade nodded. Sai is fine. Tsunade smiled. She was getting somewhere with this boy. I don't know a cure for your partner, she began. The best thing I can do is ask one of my own subordinates if it's possible to heal someone. However, before I ask this of her, I need to know about Operation Kitsune. Sai straightened. To destroy the weak inside the village, the Kyuubi was to be released and its fury controlled by Danzo. Tsunade's jaw dropped. How? How can he control the Kyuubi? Tsunade asked urgently. The Sharingan implanted in his arm, the boy said, sounding puzzled. And his right eye. Tsunade nodded and stood. Oni, send a message to Naruto at once that I would like to ask her opinion on something in person. Gamma, tell the Intel Division 1 need the scroll keeping Shimura's body in stasis. Also, inform them I need an autopsy report yesterday. The two Anbu nodded and vanished. Tsunade could handle herself, but there were Anbu in here, undetectable to anyone other than Tsunade herself. Sai looked up at her. Does your partner have a name? Sai hesitated. Shin, he said after a long silence. Tsunade nodded. Take me to him. I'll do all I can. Sai nodded and stood. They walked through the forbidding halls of the Nei Anbu HQ. They stopped at a cell, for all their rooms were cells, with a coughing kid. Shin, the boy had light blue hair and was far more tanned than Sai. Hokage-sama's here to heal you. Nothing can heal me, Shin dismissed. Let me decide that, Gaki, she ordered. Then she opened the cell with her chakra, and stepped in. Sai stayed out, keeping the door open. Green chakra lighted on her hands, and she frowned at the kid's system. It's advanced, certainly, she admitted reluctantly. Like I said, I don't think I can heal it completely. Not even I have that power. But, demon chakra might? Sai asked innocently. Tsunade grinned. Yes, Sai, I think so. She healed as much of the damage as she could, and it was clear he was already feeling quite better. Thank you, Hokage-sama, Shin gasped. TCH. Don't thank me, I do what I can. She stood. I have more questions, she told Sai, but to soothe the abruptness of the words, she placed a hand on his shoulder. But they can wait. She gave him a soft smile. Then she called, Tora. Tora appeared. Use my account and buy proper beds for all these, nay. They deserve far more than what they're getting. Also, if you have to, force it on them, she added dryly. She looked around at the faces of the, ninja looking down at her, non-expressions on their faces. Seriously, they'll need a lot of work, she sighed. Roar on, with Naruto. Naruto was pleasantly full when the most delicious scent appeared. She sat up in her seat as the final course was given. A bowl of ramen to everyone who wanted one. Quickly, Naruto grabbed one, and she started to cry. Are you okay, Naruto? Neji asked, looking concerned. I've not had ramen since I left Konoha, Ibeo. She wept. Itadakimasu. She drank some of the broth first. And then she was done, setting her chopsticks down, right as most people were getting their second bite. Another, please. Heads swiveled down to look as Naruto got another bowl. And another. 5 bowls were gone before everyone recalled they had their own to eat, even as Naruto got yet another. Obito matched her. It was the start of the strangest contest ever. The shinobi, well used to the fact that they were shinobi and could probably literally swallow a sword without dying. Nobody would try it as they weren't idiots, stared in varying looks of disgust as Naruto slurped down many bowls of ramen, Obito not far behind her. How weird, a random civilian said. How gross, another said. But they were now all watching in disgusted fascination, wondering who would win. I'm done, Naruto groaned after her 20th bowl. I can't eat another bite, Obito said sulkily after his 17th. You two are idiots, Neji sighed, despairing. Naruto hugged her parents, for the first time hugging flesh and blood and not chakra constructs. It was probably awkward, but Minato hugged her hard. I'm proud of you, he whispered in her ear. She smiled. No matter what, I will never leave you, Kushina whispered as she hugged her, pushing more chakra into Naruto. Her own chakra. Naruto hugged her fiercely. She hugged Rin, having gotten to know her. I'm glad to have met you, Naruto said to her. Keep Kakashi in line, Kay? She smiled at Rin, but it was sad, too. Rin's smile faltered, but it came back and Rin hugged her. I'll do what I can, Rin smiled. Naruto leaned in one more time and whispered something to Rin, and Rin went pink before nodding, an embarrassed sort of smile on Rin. Then Naruto turned to Inoichi. Naruto bowed at Inoichi. You know, I can see your child in you, she said after a moment, startling him for a minute. Then she turned to her cute sensei and glomped him again. Why? Kakashi muttered. Because you're cute, and I'll never be able to do that again, Naruto replied instantly after letting him go. Sake was hugging Kushina. Naruto's final goodbye, Obito. She almost didn't say goodbye, but she knew she had to say it. Because she'd been with her mother all her life, and she'd known what her father had done for her. She hugged him, and for a long moment didn't let go. She whispered 3 words in his ears as Minato finished the seal to the Ryumyaku, to seal it off completely, and she stepped back, her bag on her shoulder. Her calm aqua eyes met his wide charcoal eyes as she started to glow. And without any fanfare, she, Neji, and Sake all vanished. Konoha, with Obito and his Team 7. Minato chuckled at his team. Settle down, you guys. He smiled at the new Junin of the team. Congratulations, Kakashi, I got you something. He gave his student a kunai, one of his best kunai. Thank you, sensei, Kakashi said, looking wary of the kunai, but accepting it. Rin smirked. It was an idea from En-chan, she giggled, presenting him with an orange book as well as a medical kit. Kakashi stared at the orange book with his eyes wide. His mask had slid down, meaning he was probably gaping like an idiot. Obito snickered at Kakashi's priceless expression, knowing that when Naruto returned to the land of the living he'd have a lot of blackmail material to throw at Kakashi. Rin giggled with him. The book was Icha Icha Paradise. That snicker was cut short as Kakashi tucked it in his bag and turned to him, face inscrutable, palm out. I didn't get you anything. Obito scowled. So what? He'd forgotten. He'd think of something later. You can have my Sharingan, Obito said, making Kakashi pause, and Rin gasped. As your Junin present. I don't want it. I want you. Kakashi cried. I don't want your eye. I want you alive. he told Obito, his lone eye starting to water. Don't get sentimental on me now, Obito wheezed. Take my damn eye and read that book with it. Kakashi actually stopped crying. How can you joke like that when you're dying in front of me? Take my damn eye, or else I'll put you in a genjutsu and make RIN transplant it. Obito screamed back at him, meaning it, and his non-crushed eye welled with tears that Obito furiously blinked away. Kakashi finally relented, and Kakashi looked at him with that red eye. Funny, I can see through it, Obito said quietly. Protect Rin, Kakashi. Don't let her die. Kakashi's Sharingan cried, almost like both Obito and Kakashi were crying. Go. He tugged his hand out of Rin's. Rin got up. I'm sorry, Obito. Don't cry, Rin, Obito murmured. I don't want to see you cry. His breath quieted, and Kakashi gathered his resolve. Before he left, he heard Obito say, let me see out of that eye, Kakashi. Kakashi sniffed, wiped his tears, and gathered Rin in his arms. Now, with Obito. Obito jerked up into a sitting position on his bed in the Akatsuki headquarters. He stared at his ring for a moment, gazing at it. Wondering just why he dreamed of his team, and he paused, going over to his chest of drawers, and rifled through it. He was certain that Sarah had made them all take a photo and had sent them through runners before that mission that went awry. Yes, there it was. The photograph was framed. His own Team 7 photo was next to it, but he ignored it for the moment. Sensei, he thought, staring at the yellow-haired man tugging the two redheads near him. It was obvious that they were family, now that he looked at it. Naruto was beaming, Kushina grinning, and Minato looking more happy than Obito had ever seen him. Uchiha Sake stood in the photo, looking as eccentric as she could, her Sharingan eyes not visible. Kakashi stood next to her, looking bored of it all. Neji stood next to Naruto with a polite smile on his face. Obito closed his eyes and thought. What had she said to him? What? He thought back. They were all gathered around the Ryumyaku. She hugged him. 3 words. None of them having love in them, but there was a V. Love, shove. No, there was an O there, forge? He couldn't remember. Angry, he stalked out into the hallway, putting his mask on and bumping into Deidara. Toby is sorry. Please forgive, motherfucker. Obito swirled out of there, noticing Deidara's shocked face. Well, his entire world was tossed upside down in one night. A memory that Madara had shoved down deep inside of him had finally burst out. Finally, he swirled into existence in the office of the Mizukage, where said Genjutsu Kage was defending himself. Kai, he ordered, releasing the Genjutsu from the young Kage. Shit, she's going to kill me. Normally, he wouldn't be so worried or so damn hysterical, but really, Naruto had forgiven him for leading her parents to their deaths and he needed to say sorry to Kakashi. Have you come to your senses? Have you? Damn it, answer me. He shook the young Kage, who glared at him. Yes, now unhand me. Obito took his hands off of him. Where am I? The Mizukage finally demanded. Oh, right, ruthless murderer. Obito had killed the last Kage and made the current Kage. Kage, you're the leader of Kirigakure, Obito informed him. Because I, may have killed your predecessor because I needed a Bijuu under my control. You did. What? The Yondaime Mizukage spat. I may have killed. Do I really need to say it again? I killed your predecessor because I needed a Bijuu under my control so I could capture you for the Akatsuki. I'm so sorry. Stay away from the Akatsuki because they're after you. Obito cried, swirling back into his room. He quickly sucked up all his crap into his eye, then took off his cloak and made the ring melt through his body. Then he wrote a note and took his mask off, weighing the pros and cons. No, he decided. I don't need this anymore. He let it fall onto the bed, face up. Then he swirled into non-existence just as the Zetsus molded in, not seeing the last of his Kekkei Genkai fade. Tsunade was talking to the senseis when Kakashi gasped, putting a hand up to his Sharingan eye. Need a minute? Tsunade asked sarcastically. I think. What Kakashi thought was not heard, as Kakashi vanished into a swirling nothingness. Well, shit. Kakashi stared at him some more. Then Kakashi got on his knees and bowed. Obito opened his mouth, but stopped upon seeing the tears. I couldn't protect her. I couldn't protect Rin. Obito sighed. I don't hate you anymore, Kakashi. I remembered something a friend once said to me. He knelt and picked up his brother figure. I forgive you. Kakashi stared at him with bewilderment. Who's ever said that to you? He sniffed. For Kami's sake, just take it. He yelled at his friend, slapping his head. Geez, just trying to help, but no, you wonder who's ever said that to me. I'll have you know it was Naruto who said it to me, you moron. You've never. Kakashi's eye widened. Looks like Obito hadn't been the only one to forget about that. Kakashi looked at his dresser from the Akatsuki with a bed and other stuff. You're not staying in here for the rest of your life. But, no buts. Look, I get it if you don't want to tell everyone you caused the Yondaime's death. Which you'll have to tell Inoichi-san and Tsunade-sama anyway. But you can't stay in here. I'll ask my boyfriend if it's okay with him if I let you sleep on the couch. I thought you'd be top, Obito blurted. Kakashi grinned, the only evidence the crinkling around the eyes. I am, he said proudly. But Iruka's scary, and, well, enough said, you know. Obito frowned. I don't want to go out there. Oh, and Sake-chan lied when she said Genma-san was the pervert. Kakashi frowned. Then his eye lit up. Really? Who was she talking about? He asked, using his eye on both of them, Obito unaware of this. You moron. And Obito hit him over the head and sent him to the floor. The very wooden floor in a very real office. Kakashi, I'm going to kill you. And Obito proceeded to throttle Kakashi, yelling at him for landing him in the Hokage office. Kakashi choked, but slammed his head into Obito and then massaged his throat while the older man was dazed. Wait, you have two eyes? How do you make that happen? Kakashi wondered. Don't worry about it. I used an eye someone was transplanting. You stole an eye, Obito? That's disgusting. You're disgusting. You disgusting. Obito's head slumped. Ah, fuck. I forgot what I was going to say. There was a lull in the office, and a voice said, Obito? Obito turned to smile, screamed in shock, and vanished behind Kakashi, eyeing the green beast that had said his name. For a minute, nobody said anything, and Obito frowned as something clicked. Made a guy? He nodded, and instantly tears were pouring down Guy's face. This is the most youthful thing that has happened since the last challenge I had against Kakashi. Or even trained with my student Lee. Obito's eyes went wide and his face was horrified. Dear Kamis, please don't tell me there's another one. There's another one, Kakashi deadpanned. I'll have you know, Neji-san was taught by him. Obito face-faulted. You've got to be kidding me. A book was thrown at Obito's head. Instantly sensing the threat, he let the book phase through him and crash against the wall. Kakashi. A strident female voice made everyone look to the office. Who's the guy? His name's Uchiha Obito. I thought he was dead. She was talking about you being the pervert. Obito blurted. There was a pause. Kakashi twitched. She said that, did she? His voice was abnormally calm. Did Obito magically revive or something? Yuhi Kurenai asked. No, I wasn't dead to begin with, Obito said crossly. I was picked up by some old dude who had a parasitic plant for a helper. No, Tsunade-sama, I'm not joking, the younger man said to the older woman. And, I know it might sound crazy, batshit insane, in fact, but the person who saved my life was none other than Uchiha Madara. There was a stunned pause. Hold on. Tsunade flared her chakra and red seals appeared. Privacy seals. Nothing, she said loudly, comes or goes out of this room. Kakashi, monitor him for lies. Kakashi opened his Sharingan, pushing his headband up. Obito spoke. It might have been days or hours from the minute the rocks half crushed me. Naruto felt heat. She was relieved to feel the weight of her sword on her back, and she opened her eyes. Blackness. She panicked. Let me out, she cried. And like magic, or because there were unseen airholes in the thing encircling her, the sand, for that's what she saw, it was when light invaded, fell from around her, and she was in the middle of Suna. She fell onto the ground hacking sand and she started to cry. Not because of Gaara. No, it was because she'd just forgiven the guy who had made her grow up an orphan. But she honestly thought that he deserved redemption, everyone did. Gaara put a hand on her shoulder and she clutched at him, crying, in the middle of the village hidden in the sand. Later that week, she was facing the case cage and perspiring in the heat of the robes the case cage had given her. Seriously, the amount of clothes she had now, from Roran, her jumpsuit, Haku's gift of clothes, and now the 3 pairs of robes the case cage had given her along with a couple shinobi clothes Tamari had foisted upon the Jinchuriki girl and Sake. Naruto could start her own second-hand shop, not that she'd do that, of course. The duo watched each other for a few seconds before the cage sighed. I will now teach you how to create a Ketsueki Bunshin. He put his hands in the hair sign, then the dragon. Then, he bit his thumb, slammed it on the ground, and a powerful wave of chakra exploded from him, making the teenager flinch. A poof of smoke and a similar cage appeared. Now, throw a kunai at me, the cage invited. At my heart. She paled. Well, sucked at projectile weapons, a reason she's stuck with her katana. Why not have one of your Anbu do it, she suggested brightly. He stared at her. With a reluctant sigh, she took a kunai out and gulped, aiming. She threw it how Shisui had taught her. And she watched, disbelievingly, as her kunai sliced into the cage's chest. I accidentally killed the cage. She shrieked. I'm terrible at kunai throwing, it was a mistake, promise. You didn't kill me, the cage deadpanned. You may have killed the original me, but all my experience in that body passed on to me. I'm perfectly fine. He gestured to her. Naruto calmed down. Then she used the hair and dragon signs, bit her thumb, slammed it on the ground, and used up half her chakra in one blast. Which created one clone that looked like her. I have a twin, she delighted. The loud sound of the cage facepalming was heard. Then Naruto found herself wide-eyed as gold dust came at her. As it came inches from her face, the teen threw her arms up in front of her face. Sand exploded from the ground. One of my many gifts to you, Kurama whispered in her mind. Shukaku isn't the only one able to move sand around, and this man won't be the only one able to use gold. Use it wisely. Kurama, did you seriously steal one of your brother's abilities? No, you idiot, we all have the ability to fuck with our host's DNA. Shukaku isn't the only one who can give his host the freaking dust release. Just focus. Oh, yeah, and magnet release, seeing as gold's a metal. Naruto returned her focus to the astounded cage. Then she tilted her head, and lifted her head. The sand responded to her. It's a great defense, too. Ever get too lazy to do any shit, you can just manipulate the sand like a badass. You'll have to ask Gaara how it works. And when you're done with that, remember, gold is heavier than sand. Naruto made it impale her blood clone, who gave her a betrayed look before dying. And then the clone's memories slammed into her, and Naruto realized just how big of an absolute idiot she was right before she passed out. Shikamaru unrolled the missive, a summons from Tsunade to Naruto. Looks like it's time to head home, Shikamaru sighed. Gaara stepped in, holding Naruto up, who was now wearing a gourd on her back like Gaara, her katana under it. What happened? Shikamaru asked. Apparently the Kyuubi likes to fuck with things, Naruto said shortly, legging go of Gaara and limping to the bed before sinking down. Magnet release and dust release, she informed them. He promised it would be the last time that he'd fuck with my DNA. Oh, that's cool, Kiba said, grinning broadly. Now you can just stand there and do nothing while you're stopping other ninja or bandits. Naruto's sweat dropped. Kiba, you and the Kyuubi have eerily similar minds, you know that? Kiba's grin slid off of his face. Okay, well, Tsunade sent a summons for you, Shikamaru said. Oh, hey, Shikamaru. Naruto grinned brilliantly. I forgot you were here. How was your stay? Shikamaru pinched his nose. We need to go back to Konoha. A ringing silence. Okay, Naruto said with a yawn. Just one more night here. She opened her eyes after a minute of shut eye. Hey, wait, I can send a. Shikamaru hit her pressure point on the back of her neck, and she was out like a light. They were zooming over the sand dunes, a gleeful expression on Kiba's face. What happens when you run out of chakra? Shikamaru called over the wind. I'll stop before then, Naruto called. Don't want to be caught unawares, after all. Not like last time. That was a very good point. Luckily, Gaara had been thoughtful enough to give them scrolls to carry their belongings. Each of their backpacks were designated for something. Kiba's was the food, Shika's was the water, because nobody really thought bandits would go after him. Saki's the clothes, because lab coat or not, you touch Saki's clothes and she'll kill you. Naruto's the weapons, and Neji was just enjoying himself. They sailed across the desert quickly, ignoring the hot sun that beat upon them. Naruto made it to the line, then floated the sand down and let it trickle back into her gourd. I'm painting my gourd orange and blue, she announced. And I'm going to keep orange and blue paint with me in case I need to paint it again. I'm still wondering how you're even related to Gaara, Kiba said slowly as they began walking, relishing the change as they traveled through Aim no Kuni. I'm related to him because A. We're Jinchuriki siblings, B. We're both Uzumaki, and C. Well, we both have blood red hair? Did you find out what you wanted to know about Akasuna no Sasori? Asked Shikamaru. Naruto's face darkened. 2 words. Living puppets, she said, grimly. Apparently he can transform the bones of humans into steel, possibly due to magnet release. I'm not clear on the details, because Rasa hasn't witnessed it yet, but I really don't want to cross paths with the guy anytime soon. Yeah, that wouldn't be good. Shikamaru paused. Are we going after Sasuke? Naruto tripped over a rock, but steadied herself. Let's talk about that later, Naruto offered quickly. So, how long do you want to stay in Konoha? 2 weeks, tops? Shikamaru asked. A month, Kiba replied. It doesn't matter, Neji replied dismissively. I'm not letting you leave without my awesomeness, Sake winked, draping herself over Naruto. Shikamaru bit his lip. Kiba, what do you think about taking a break from traveling for a while? Shikamaru asked as they walked further into Aim no Kuni. Rain drenched them to the pore. Naruto shivered, a feeling of deep foreboding entering her. I shouldn't be here. She stilled. Guys, we need to go. Now. Afraid it's a little late for that. Katsu. Naruto brought her sword out and dodged the bomb. Bakuhatsu no Deidara seemed unusually gleeful as he threw down bomb after bomb. Run, she yelled at her friends. No. Saki's eyes swirled, changing into Mangekyu form. And then, a giant green form formed around them. Susanoo. Sake grinned. She'd taken her glasses off. Time warp. Spinning second. Time slowed. It didn't stop, but it did slow. Now, let's run. Sake cried. Naruto, my Susanoo is weightless. Naruto nodded, and without a backwards glance, Naruto formed sand under them and shot off, towards the nearest border. Saki's Susanoo fell to pieces when Deidara was no longer visible in the sky. Kurama supplied Naruto with a steady supply of chakra, and she made sure all of them were secured to the cloud of sand. They slowed down near the border of Hai no Kuni, but didn't stop until Naruto literally crashed into a tree. I think it's safe to say we're good, Sake muttered, staying where she lay. Sorry, guys. Just so tired. Naruto yawned again. We're going to have to use your sand cloud again tomorrow, Shikamaru muttered. I know, Naruto replied. But I think we'll be fine. She yawned again. For the night, at least. They all took shelter under trees, and despite their exhaustion, none of them slept well. They passed Tanzaku Gai before they got off the sand cloud, but didn't dare all fall asleep at the same time. That had been a narrow escape, even with Saki's Sharingan. Naruto took the first watch, barely managing to stay awake and even falling asleep a time or two before jerking awake. Neji relieved her for second shift, and on it went. Silence prevailed. They made it to Konoha, dead on their feet. None of them spoke, and their appearances were such that Izumo actually had to ask who they were. But looking at Saki's coat and Kiba's fang marks and Neji's head, it was confirmed rather quickly. You guys look like crap, observed Tsunade when they got to her office, civilians quickly getting out of their way. They didn't exactly smell like daisies, and Shikamaru's hair was down and tangled. Sake had dried blood all over her face under her eyes as well as leaves and twigs tangled in her hair. And Naruto had blood all over her face, and tangles in her hair. Tsunade grimaced as she smelled them. Tori, show them to the Junin lounge. I'm sure there's a few beds in Anbu HQ that they can use, right? And showers? Definitely showers. Also, a trim for Shikamaru and a cut for the girls? Tori bowed and herded the group out. Zombie-like, they shuffled out. Naruto's hair felt much lighter when she woke up. And Anbu was reading a newspaper. Naruto really didn't feel like getting up. The panic that had been there the past few days was gone. Like she was safe inside Konoha walls. Considering what happened last time, well, it was a laughable prospect. Safe. Naruto groaned and sat up, noticing her hair length. It was a much more manageable length. Long enough to put in a short ponytail, but not long enough that she had to do it. She was glad for it, even though she couldn't really remember when it was cut. Tsunade-sama wishes to see you when you're freshened up, a cool, female voice Naruto usually associated with Neko said. Your masks were changed? New cage, new masks, apparently. Well, actually, I'm still trying to get mine from Gamma. Somehow hubby got hers back. Yugo, one of Naruto's teachers in the way of the sword, folded her newspaper and stood. Hurry up, I have to take you to where Tsunade-sama wants to meet after I tell your friends what they're allowed to do. I think Kiba wants to learn some more sword skills, Naruto told her, dressing quickly as Yugo walked to the door. Really? Sword skills take years to learn. Yours did, Yugo replied. Because I suck at aiming everything but a sword. It's kind of hard to learn to fight short range when you're also a long range fighter, Naruto replied crossly. You need to learn more ninjutsu. Yugo showed her to the lounge area. Lots of unmasked Anbu were around, drinking coffee. Quickly, they all tensed as Yugo walked in with Naruto. Oh, chill your freaking minds, Naruto said with an eye roll. I'm a freaking Jinchuriki and can distinguish what you smell like within seconds. Half of you haven't showered, which is disgusting, and I really don't care to know your true identities, no matter what you look like. Yugo, I'm not supposed to be here, why? Yugo grabbed her arm and yanked her to the coffee machine while slamming a piece of duct tape over Naruto's mouth to shut her up. Naruto used her other arm to yank the duct tape off as Yugo poured coffee in the sugar dispenser and then poured the sugar-drenched coffee inside a cup. Then, when Naruto opened her mouth to ask Yugo just what she was doing, Yugo made her drink the coffee. Ruthlessly, she sputtered and got coffee and sugar all over her face. Yugo, like a mother, took a napkin and wiped her face. Yugao, what the hell are you doing? Naruto shrieked, skittering backwards and yanking her arm away, hearing a nasty crack and feeling a shooting pain. Her heart started to double tap, and Yugo smirked. You're more fun under the influence. Yugo snickered as Naruto's vision doubled and her eyes dilated. Like she was on drugs. Seriously, Naruto should never be given sugar. Tsunade wondered why Naruto seemed to be high. She was acting it, leaning on Yugo the whole way, a large, dopey smile on her face. When she was finished explaining to Naruto what she wanted done, Naruto waved her hand and told her it would be taken care of. Indeed, when she went to see Shin, she saw him looking mildly amused with a group of the seriously stubborn, Nate, members smiling at whatever she was doing. And then, when Naruto moved out of the way, Tsunade felt an irk mark grow. Naruto had painted her, as a male, flirting with a female Jiraiya. Naruto looked towards her with that same stupid grin on her face as Tsunade hit her. No holding back now. Naruto sailed through 2 walls and made a very deep imprint on the steel wall that was the outside for the HQ of Nay. He may be my soon-to-be husband, but that does not give you the right to draw that. She stabbed a finger at the picture, and Naruto stood up, looking confused. She tripped over nothing and face-planted, but thankfully Shin was there to catch her. Thanks, Naruto said. Neko, you ever put so much sugar and coffee into me again, I swear I'll beat you in a duel. Gamma sighed. It's Gamma, now, you fool. No, it's Neko, and it always will be, new cage or not, Naruto shot back with a smile. Tsunade no Ban. Naruto hugged Tsunade, who hugged her back, before making the younger girl step back as Tsunade looked over her critically. Well, you seem to be in good health, Tsunade announced. Better health than you were earlier. A small, curious expression of fear came over Naruto before it vanished. Ah, yeah, about that. I need to talk to you in private. It's not about you guys, Naruto added, twisting around and smiling at the nay guys. But it's something really private. Tsunade nodded. Very well. Let's go to my office, we'll talk there. Gamma, with me. Until I can trust them, I am pairing them up with several Anbu to 5 of them at a time. Tsunade informed Naruto once they were in her office. Shizune setting a chair in the office for Naruto. Naruto nodded at Shizune and sat in the chair. That's good, but you don't exactly have the Anbu to spare, Naruto noted. Tsunade shook her head. I don't, so I plan on creating teams with regular Junin like Guy and Kakashi and perhaps Asuma. It depends, really. Tsunade shuffled some of her papers on her desk. Now, Gamma has informed me that Sake-san's eyes are going blind as long as she uses any special features on them. Naruto looked horrified. Her Mangekyo causes blindness? I should have guessed. Naruto looked pissed at herself. Tsunade smirked at her. Unless another pair of Uchiha eyes are donated, yes? Gamma, bring him here, and make sure Kakashi and Iruka come, too. I have no doubt they're dying to see Naruto. Gamma's chakra vanished. While Gamma's doing that, tell me your news, Tsunade instructed. Naruto swallowed. I have reason to believe, she told Tsunade, that Akasuna no Sasori of the Akatsuki is after me, as is his apparent partner, Bakuhatsu no Deidara. Apparently Sasori can make living puppets. Tsunade nodded. I've heard the same. Some Kekkei Genkei are only available while one is alive. Like yours. As queen of the Uzumaki, your powers are only available until you're dead. And then they're passed on to the next queen. The Uzumaki queen gained a pensive look. Yeah, and Baan, I've got to tell you something. Naruto took a deep breath. The Senju. They're descended from the Uchiha and Uzumaki. Tsunade stared at her. Meaning nothing, really, Naruto hurried to explain. It's just that I found that out during my latest trip to Uzushio, right after we left last time. We headed to Suna, and avoid, if possible, Aim no Kuni, Naruto added, recalling with that small bit of fear what might have happened if Sake hadn't used her eyes. Aim no Kuni? Tsunade asked, paling. Before Naruto could elaborate, the door opened. Iruka Ka-san. She had dropped the sensei out of the academy. She hugged the Chunin, who laughed warmly. Hey, Naruto. It's been a while, he greeted. It certainly has, Kakashi grinned. Only a few months, Naruto grinned up at them. Then she saw the newcomer, who looked very familiar. Do I know you? She asked, tilting her head. Ah, we met 20 years ago, before you were born. Bakashi's been filling me in. Bakashi. You're Obito, she immediately said with a grin. Wow, you're old. He face-faulted. I'm only 33, you bitch. What did you call me? Naruto yelled, getting in his face. Obito got right in hers, too. I called it like I see it. You call me old, you're a bitch. You're a bastard, then. Yep, Obito ground out. Same, Naruto chirped. Both were instantly back to normal, smiling at each other. Dear Kamis, I've never met anyone who actually got along as well as these two, Kakashi said with a sweat drop. Then he paused and turned to Naruto. Why did you give Rin the idea to give me an Icha-Icha? Naruto grinned. So she did it, huh? Good. Bet you secretly stayed up and read it all the time. Not until I left Anbu, confessed Kakashi. Naruto smiled. Well, it's definitely nice to see you again, Obito, even if it was only about 2 weeks ago for me, confessed the young Jinchuriki. Did you tell Tsunade about? She had trouble speaking for a moment. Obito looked sad for a moment. I'm sorry, I really am, he said, truly regretful. Naruto swallowed. It's fine. Tsunade cleared her throat, and everyone turned to her. You told me, in confidence, that you knew where Uchiha eyes were. Is that true? Tsunade questioned. Obito nodded. It is. I can save Kakashi's eyesight with those eyes, and Sake-san's, if she'll permit. There's only one side effect, and it's a rather good one, Obito added with a smile. It permits the user full usage of their Mangekyo eyes without going blind. Of course, it has to be a close relatives, but since all Uchiha basically are related to one another I can do it. Tsunade nodded. And as for Uchiha Itachi, I have found something in Shimura Danzo's files pertaining to him. I want you to retrieve him from the Akatsuki organization. There was a stunned pause. Okay, Obito said after a moment. I think I'll need help on this one. Naruto cleared her throat. I need help on another matter I was going to tell you about, Tsunade-sama. She got a raised eyebrow from Tsunade. I may be able to retrieve Sasuke, but I will need at least a couple months before everything is fully prepared, she admitted. If it's alright for you, I would like to stay inside Konoha, but somewhere where I won't be bothered much. I can assist Obito-san in retrieving Itachi-san, and he can assist me in retrieving Sasuke. Tsunade nodded. Request granted, both of you. Naruto, the tower in the Forest of Death is empty if you want to stay there. Only Mitarashi Anko is usually in there. Hubby? Naruto perked up. I like her. Oh, and one more thing. You know what the case cage did to stay alive, right? Tsunade nodded at her. Well, he taught me that, and I think I need to send myself to Uzushio. There might be more than 2 there, Naruto finished. Tsunade sat back in her chair, looking at her. You can make more than 1? Naruto nodded. I expect he'll kill a lot of them, so I think I will keep one of them in reserve in case he kills them. Tsunade nodded, but then paused. Aim no Kuni? She finally asked. Naruto didn't bat an eye. It's where I think the Akatsuki are located. She noticed the sudden fear on Tsunade's face. What's wrong, Bon? That's where Jiraiya went, Tsunade whispered. Naruto's face whitened, too. I guess Saki's eyes can wait, Naruto said steadily. Obito, get me to a megacure. What? No, Naruto, I forbid it, Tsunade started. Naruto drew herself up. I will not stand by, she snapped at her grandmother. He is my grandfather, and I can't let him die. I just can't. Plus, Hokage-sama, I'm not one of your ninja. I'm a wandering ninja. She glanced at Obito. You're not one of her ninja yet, are you? As if I care about his safety, Tsunade snapped. Then, seeing everyone's expressions, she sighed. Okay, I kind of do. But not as much as I care about you, Naruto. Please, don't go, Tsunade pleaded. Naruto shook her head slowly, a soft smile on her face. I'm sorry, Tsunade-sama. I don't have a choice. She looked at Obito and silently conferred with him. He nodded quickly and grabbed her arm. Both swirled into nothingness and Tsunade roared and picked up her desk, throwing it out and watching it shatter against the street.
That's all for now. If you want to see next part, then please like this video and subscribe my channel. Thank you.